Hello, IT. Have you tried turning it off and on again?
I'm literally trying that right now, Dan. Hang on a sec, man. I'm working on it. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. I'm working through it. All right. I think I just about have this sorted out. Let's see. All right. Yeah. Finally, everything's working. Let's start this. Hey everyone. Happy Taco Tuesday. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Thank you for bearing with me while I severely un-effed up every effed up thing that ever effed an F. Just everything that could have gone wrong trying to get the stream up and running. After I hit the go live button, it's like, and everything's gonna just crash. Oh, dude. Speaking of crashing, do y'all guys see that dude from the Coldplay concert? Man. Talk about getting wrecked. Getting found out that you're a Coldplay fan in 4K. Rough times for him. I hope everybody had a fantastic day. And thankfully just kind of everything at work is back down to a low boil. It's not quite going crazy. It took me several weeks to kind of shake off all the cobwebs, get back in the flow of things. But thankfully everything's going pretty well. Actually, Dave, I had a pen test recently on an AI agent. I talked about it briefly on stream, and we'll do internal recaps of some interesting findings that we have whenever we go through and we do an operation. So I got to do the recap of that today, and I realized there was a lot of foundational stuff in there that some folks might not have understood in it. So I actually did a presentation of like, hey, here's the actual parts and the moving pieces and how they're running. And I got really good feedback from folks on that. Like, hey, thanks for putting that in there. Because a lot of times we're working on systems that everybody's already accustomed to. We understand Active Directory. We understand, Azure, AWS, some other stuff like that. So whenever we see those interesting things, yeah, it's cool, but we already have a frame of reference for it. For a lot of the language model stuff, not everybody has that frame of reference. So we went through and I kind of laid that foundational work, and everybody seemed to really enjoy that. So I was talking with my boss. I've got an idea for something else we might start working on stream. Like whenever I need a break from Hackbot, who's driving me absolutely bananas right now with this browser shenanigans. So got another idea, something we might start working on for that, but I'll save that for another day. Let's go ahead and dive into some news for today. So if y'all did not see this, just late last week, there was an NVIDIA AI vulnerability, and I didn't look at this, but this is kind of neat. 3-line container escape in NVIDIA container toolkit. So, which is pretty bad because this is what they use for a lot of the machine learning pipelines as they come through. Let's see. Wiz Research discovered a container escape vulnerability in the NVIDIA container toolkit, which they dubbed NVIDIA Escape. The toolkit powers many AI services offered by cloud and SaaS providers, and the vulnerability was now tracked as a CVE value, and it was assigned a 9, which is pretty bad. 9 is almost as bad as you get. It goes on the scale of 1 to 10, basically. It allows a malicious attacker to bypass isolation measures and gain full root access to the host machine. Ooh. This flaw stems from a subtle misconfiguration in how Toolkit handles OCI hooks and can be exploited with stunningly simple 3-line Docker file. So because the Container Toolkit is the backbone for many managed AI and GPU services across all major cloud providers, this vulnerability represents a systemic risk in the AI ecosystem, potentially allowing attackers to tear down the walls between different customers, affecting thousands of organizations. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Oh God, what are you doing? Go away. The dangers of this vulnerability is most acute in the managed AI cloud services that allowed customers to run their own AI container on a shared GPU infrastructure. So in this scenario, a malicious customer could use this vulnerability. Would they really be a customer? I guess so. Anyway, to run this vulnerability, have a specially crafted container, escape its intended boundaries, and achieve full root control of the host machine. From there, the attacker could access, steal, or manipulate the sensitive data and proprietary models of all the customers running on the shared hardware. RIP. Hey, Oni, what's up, man? Transmission coming in.
Incoming transmission from E_Oiler.
Thanks, Oiler. Oh man, making it rain with pennies. This is so let me get back to this. This is exactly the class of vulnerability that's proven to be a systemic risk across all the AI clouds. A few months ago, Wiz Research demonstrated how similar container escape flaws allowed access to sensitive customer data in the majority of services like Replicate or DigitalOcean. Dang, I didn't hear about that one, and I use DigitalOcean. I don't use it a lot, but I do use it. The recurrence of these fundamental issues highlights the urgency needed to scrutinize the security of our core AI infrastructure as the world races to adopt it. It's not even the core AI infrastructure. It's the container infrastructure. This is the problem with the container and how the container service was set up. Let's see. So the affected components were the NVIDIA Container Toolkit, all versions up to including 1.17.7, and NVIDIA GPU Operator up to versions 25.3.1. Primary recommendation, upgrade, of course. Let's see. Patching is highly important, yada, yada, yada. Technical mitigations. All right. I don't care about the mitigations. I want to know why this worked. And this seems pretty self-evident. Why even research this? Because a lot of people use it. That's why you research it. Here we go. So understanding the OCI hooks and the container toolkit. So the Open Container Initiative, which is OCI, specification defines a standard for container runtimes. Part of the standard is a hook system which allows tools to run scripts at specific points in a container's lifecycle. I didn't actually know that. This is new to me. I'm fascinated by this. So the NVIDIA Container Toolkit uses these hooks to perform its primary functions, which is configuring a container to be able to communicate with the host's NVIDIA GPUs and drivers. So when the container is started with the NVIDIA runtime, NCT registers several hooks, including a create container hook. All right, so we get a path to it, and then whatever arguments we want. Very cool, very straightforward. So the hook runs as a privileged process on the host. The hook runs as a privileged process on the host. Okay, I can already see where this is going. Lovely. To set up the necessary environment for the container. So OCI spec defines different types of hooks. There's a pre-start hook run in a clean, isolated context. Create container hook. They have critical priorities. They inherit environment variables from the container image unless you explicitly configure it to the contrary. All right, so how are they weaponizing the environment variables? So with the ability to load the environment of the privileged hook, an attacker has many options. One of the direct is to abuse the LD preload. So it's a well-known and powerful Linux environment variable, which forces a process to load a specific user-defined shared library. RIP. Hey, Dot, what's up? Happy Tuesday. So by setting the LD preload in their Docker file, an attacker could instruct the container toolkit hook to load a malicious library. Making matters worse, the create container hook executes with its working directory set to the container's root file system. So that means, oh no. So that means you ship a container with your payload. You set this environment variable and get it to execute inside your payload. All right. This means the malicious library can be loaded directly into the container image with a simple path completing the exploit chain. RIP or Roni. Believe it or not, a lot of times actually when I get access into, a lot of times like CI/CD pipelines or any other system where I can deploy containers, I keep containers on standby where I can just go sub in a C2 payload, drop that sucker in there, get it to build my container, like literally right off of something like Docker Hub, and bam, then I've got my callback from their system. A lot of times though, I'll restrict it a little bit different way. The container might just be a script to download and execute from a C2 server I'm using for that operation. But there's tons of paths. Once you've got code execution, you've got code execution. It's really fun. Granted, then you got to break out the container, but there's a lot of ways to do that. Let's see. One of the most alarming aspects of this vulnerability is the simplicity. An attacker only needs to build a container image with a malicious payload in the following 3-line Docker container. So load a BusyBox base, set the environment preload to current working directory proc.so, and then add that. Boop, that's it. Nice. So what this is doing here is we're setting what's the base image for the Docker container. We're defining an environment variable, so it overrides the default one, and then we're adding the proof of concept shared object here, just over into the root directory of the system. Oh, that's awesome.
Caution. A virus has been detected.
Slyborg virus!
S1Y_B0RG virus detected in the network.
Hey Sly, what were y'all up to tonight? Welcome in, Raiders. We're doing hacker news tonight.
I'm back, baby.
Ah, my good old bender. I do love me a good bending. Wait, that sounded way worse out loud than it did in my head. Oh. Why do I always say the worst things after the raid? Why can't it ever be before the raid? Damn it. Get raided. Hello, welcome in, Raiders. Oh, by the way, hold on. I missed one in here. 2B, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Learning Vim and fixing DNS manager. Dude, it's always Vim. And well, actually, I like Vim, but it's always DNS 100% of the time. Yeah, we're going over NVIDIA in their container toolkit. So they've got their own specialized container kit that's usually meant for helping make it easy to share GPU resources, things like that. Basically powering a lot of the shared rent out GPU infrastructure. And they had a proof of concept escape from this in 3 lines. And it's stupid simple. It's really funny the way it works. DNS is the root of all problems. Exactly. So here, yeah, hold on. I'll back up a little bit. For everybody who just came in, this is really great stuff. And I like containers too. And so whenever I find container escapes or abuses, I think they're great. The longest short story of this is whenever these containers are getting provisioned, there's an open container initiative specification that defines several lifecycle hooks that you can hook into. So when the container hits lifecycle hook X, it fires a certain thing. One of those was a create container hook here. So when that create container hook fires, when it gets hit, one thing it will do is it will use the environment variables you specify in the container. It will also use it will make use of files inside the container. So real simple is you define your base image for your Docker container, you override the LD preload, which is an environment variable in Linux, which lets you load a shared library object. And then you can literally just add that to the container. So then whenever that lifecycle hook fires, it comes in, it fires the proof of concept or whatever malicious library you've got in here, and bam, you've got instant owning of the host. Not the container, the host. Owning the container when you write the Docker file is easy. This was fully compromising the host system. So then everybody else who was running something on that system, it's just fair game. Yeah, as I said, when I say simple, I meant it was pretty simple. It was all fair game from that. What's that? I'm dying. Skoro, thank you for coming online. Oh god. I tried to breathe in the Jocko. Don't breathe the Jocko. Just drink it. Yeah, it's pretty funny. That's why I've been saving this one. I haven't read through it. I bookmarked it to go over on the stream here, but it's hilarious. I didn't know it was that simple. I knew it was a fairly simple one just from the chatter, but dang, that's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. So this came from the guys over at Wiz Research, which actually do some pretty decent stuff too. I've seen some good stuff come out of them. Toss the link? Yeah, sure. Here is the link to the article for anybody and everybody. Excuse me. Still trying to unbreathe the Jocko. Andrew, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Excuse me. Good lord. Oh. That was a fun one. I'm still dying. I'm still dying. Hang on. All right. There we go. Hopefully that got it out. All right. Let's go over to the last week in security blog. Let's go see what they've got. Because if you guys have not seen this, here, I'll drop the link to this as well. They just do the best job of curating like the week's news, and I love it. They do a great job. Let's see. Ooh, like this, like stuff. This is stuff. A lot of times they have things I have not seen in here. So, little known Microsoft program could expose the Defense Department to Chinese hackers. Oh Lord. Hey, what's up, man? Digital escorts with limited technical knowledge were supposed to oversee any work done on the Microsoft cloud engineers in China. Digital escorts? What? So we're trusting that what they're doing isn't malicious. Oh Lord. That sounds hilarious. Let's go check it out. Enhance. Let's see. So Microsoft is using engineers in China to help maintain the Defense Department's computer systems with minimal supervision by U.S. personnel. There's so much wrong with that one statement. We're not even through the first paragraph. And to state the obvious, leaving some of the nation's most sensitive data vulnerable to hackers from its leading cyber adversary. No kidding. Why even outsource it? Money. It's probably cheaper. That's usually it. If you look for the what's the driving or motivating factor behind a lot of things, it's typically money. Oh Lord. Let's see. The arrangement, which was critical to Microsoft's winning the federal government's cloud computing business a decade ago, relies on U.S. citizens with security clearances to oversee the work and serve as a barrier against espionage and sabotage. But these workers, known as digital escorts, often lack the technical expertise to police foreign engineers with far more advanced skills, according to ProPublica. Some are former military personnel with little coding experience who are paid barely more than minimum wage for the work. I never served in the military, but I am a tiny bit of a military history buff, and I do enjoy it, and it's one of my favorite subjects. You don't put the enemy's best against your bare minimum. You just don't. You want to stack the deck in your favor, and that's exactly what they're doing here. Oh, Lord. So we're trusting that what they're doing isn't malicious, but we really can't tell. No shit. Ugh. I don't know how much I'm going to make it through this article. Oh, geez. So the system has been in place for nearly a decade, though its existence is being reported publicly here for the first time. Microsoft told ProPublica that it has disclosed details about the escort model. Yeah, Microsoft is really big on escorts. To the federal government, but former government officials said that in interviews that they had never heard of digital escorts. The program appears to be so low profile that even the Defense Department's IT agency had difficulty finding someone familiar with it. Literally, no one seems to know anything about this, so I don't know where to go from here, said David King, spokesperson for the Department Defense Information Systems Agency. Stop outsourcing your crap. National security and cybersecurity experts contacted by ProPublica were also surprised to learn that such an arrangement was in place, especially at the time when the U.S. intelligence community and leading members of Congress and the Trump administration view China's digital prowess as the top threat to the country. Yeah. You have to remember, when you say something is a 1 in a billion chance of happening, that's every day in China. If something has a 1 in a billion chance of happening to somebody in the world, that's every day in China. What a day. Yeah, no kidding. Let's see here. So the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has called China the most active and persistent cyber threat to the U.S. government, private sector, and critical infrastructure networks. Yeah. Anybody remember Salt Typhoon? One of the most prominent examples of this threat came in 2023 when Chinese hackers infiltrated cloud-based mailboxes of U.S. senior U.S. government officials, stealing data and emails from the Commerce Secretary, the U.S. Ambassador to China, and others working on national security matters. The intruders downloaded about 60,000 emails from the State Department alone. Bravo freaking O. Well, let's see. With President Donald Trump and his allies concerned about spying, the State Department announced plans in May to aggressively revoke visas for Chinese students, a pledge that the president seems to have walked back. The administration is also trying to arrange the sale of popular social media platform TikTok, which is owned by a Chinese company that some lawmakers believe could hand over sensitive U.S. user data to Beijing and fuel misinformation with its content recommendations. Oh, let's see. But experts told ProPublica that the digital escorting poses a far greater threat to national security than either of those issues and is a natural opportunity for spies. Yeah. Just a wee bit there. If I were an operative, I would look at this as an avenue for extremely valuable access. We need to be very concerned about that. Said, I almost read that as not Coker. I almost read that as a different last name. Very Coker. Who was a senior executive at the CIA and the National Security Agency. Yeah, no such agency. Coker was also National Cyber Director during the Biden administration, add that he and his former intelligence community colleagues would love to have had access like that. Yeah, no kidding, man. Ugh. So it's difficult to know whether engineers overseen by digital escorts have ever carried out a cyber attack against the U.S. government. Glingow, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. Yeah, it's hard to tell because you're putting the best Chinese cyber spies against what is essentially the mall cop. These are people that, not to belittle them, this is not their area of expertise and they shouldn't be asked to defend this. It's like asking, what would be a good example here? It's like asking me to play goalie. I understand soccer. I know the rules of soccer. I suck as being a goalie. But just because I look at something and I understand it doesn't mean I could do it well. These guys, I'm not even sure understand how to do it well, or how to what is actually happening and what they're doing. They do a similar model to this in a lot of the government agencies also, because what they'll do is they view sending cyber attacks as munitions. And that is not to be done by civilians. It has to be done by military personnel. So it might very well be that you have a civilian sitting there and like standing ready, and you have to have like military personnel either guiding them or they have to have their hands on the keyboard. I forget the exact exchange, but the military has to be inserted there in some way. And it looks like they're trying to do this, except they don't understand what's happening. God, this is a flustercluck. Hey, Rupert, what's up, man? They just get a summary after summary and they still don't know what's going on. Probably, man. Yeah, we'll wait for the ads for just a second, guys. We'll let them chill for this. I cannot believe this. This is atrocious. Let me see if I can do something real quick while the ads are running. Oop, much better. Extra screen real estate. Digital escort is probably an extracurricular responsibility. Yeah, no kidding. Also, Tubi, thank you for the Prime sub. I really appreciate it. All right. To the ads. Yes, we'll chill out for the ads. Because this is a long article, and I want everybody to get the full context of it. If it was a smaller, dinkier article, I'd say, yeah, we'll just blow through it. But no, I'm going to chill for the ads. I want everybody to be able to see this, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Oh, your tax dollars at work. And I would say it's not, like, if you're going to say, like, oh, I'm in Europe, or, because I get a lot of folks from overseas watching the show, too. I'd say, yeah, it's probably happening in your backyard too, because government has zero incentive for efficiency in most places. There are some where they're the oddity. They're the exception to the rule. All right, cool. Ads are done. Let's take a look at this real quick. Let's see. All right, I think I missed a part. So it's difficult whether to know engineers overseen as digital escorts have ever carried out cyber attacks against U.S. government, but Coker wondered whether it could be part of an explanation for a lot of the challenges we faced over the years. Microsoft uses the escort system to handle the government's most sensitive information that falls below classified. So according to the government, this high impact level category includes data that involves the protection of life and financial ruin, also the loss of confidentiality, integrity, and availability, of this information could be expected to have a severe or catastrophic adverse effect. Jeez. I'm sorry, adverse effect on operations, assets, or individuals, the government has said. In the Defense Department, I can't believe what I'm reading. The data is categorized as impact level 4 and 5 and includes materials that directly support military operations. I'm going to assume that the stack of PII too. Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Especially if this is material that's supporting military operations. You know that. 2B, all government has never been known for integrity. All of them. Every single one. Politicians are all snakes. I don't trust a single one. Let's see. John Sherman, who was the chief information officer for the Department of Defense during the Biden admin, said he was surprised and concerned to learn of ProPublica's findings. I probably should have known about this, he said. Probably. He told the news organization that the situation warrants a thorough review by DISA, Cyber Command, and the other stakeholders that are involved in this. You should have done that in the first place, especially since you just started. I remember when they announced this contract, and they said this has been going on for 10 years. This should have been in place, and this should have been vetted before this happened. In an emailed statement, the Defense Information Security Agency, that's DISA, said the cloud service providers are required to establish and maintain controls for vetting and using qualified specialists, but the agency did not respond to ProPublica's questions regarding the digital escort qualifications. So it's unclear whether the cloud providers to the federal government use digital escorts as part of their tech support. Amazon Web Services and Google Cloud declined to comment on the record for this article. Oracle did not respond to requests for comment. That's because Oracle doesn't have customers, they have hostages. Microsoft declined to make executives available for interviews for this article. In response to email questions, the company provided a statement saying its personnel and contractors operate in a manner consistent with U.S. government requirements and processes. Sure. Global workers, quote, have no direct access to customer data or customer systems. Yeah, but if they don't have direct access to the customer data, but they have direct access to the systems handling the customer data, that's two different stories, or even if they're just slightly removed. Come on, guys. Escorts with the appropriate clearance and training provide direct support. These personnel are provided with specific training on protecting sensitive data, preventing harm, and the use of specific commands or controls within the environment. In addition, Microsoft said that it has internal review process known as Lockbox to, quote, make sure the request is deemed safe and has any cause for concern. That's an AI. You got an AI in there, don't you? A company spokesperson declined to provide specifics about how it works, but said it's built into the system and involves a review by Microsoft employees in the US. Yeah, but is this being reviewed by the escort? Or is it being reviewed by an actual engineer who knows what's going on? And even then, what's the volume of work that's going through here? Because a lot of times, you can just very easily slip stuff in. Look at the what was it? Was it XZ? Yeah, it was XZ Utils. Look at that. XZ Utils, that backdoor, they've spent 5 years building that up. It was only by sheer luck that it got detected by some guy who was trying to hyper-optimize an embedded system and noticed a 500 millisecond difference in a login. It was by sheer luck the entire internet wasn't backdoored that day. Let's see. No access, they could just give themselves access if they really wanted it, but they won't do it because they're friends, right? Yeah, probably. Oh, yeah. But it's up in the blog, though, Rupert. Here. I think you may have joined afterwards. Let me drop you the link. This is the blog we're reading from. It's a great security aggregator. It usually drops every Monday. Today, I think it dropped this morning, which is usually why I do the news streams on Tuesday night. Yeah. Hey, no worries, man. All right. Let's wrap this one up. Wait, hold on. How much is left in this article? Please tell me there's, like, comments or something below. Oh, okay. Wait, no. Oh, God. This is a long article. Oh, God. We're not going to finish this whole thing. Dear Lord, this is horrendous, though. Let's read on a little bit more, and then we're going to cap it on this one. Let's see. Over the years, various people involved in the work, including a Microsoft cybersecurity leader, warned the company that the arrangement is inherently risky. Despite the presence of an escort, foreign engineers are privy to granular details about the federal cloud, the kind of information hackers could exploit. Moreover, the U.S. escorts overseeing these workers are ill-equipped to spot suspicious activity, two of the people said. Even those who helped develop the escort system acknowledge that people doing the work may not be able to detect problems. If someone runs a script called fixserver.sh, but it actually did something malicious, then escorts would have no idea. Yeah, exactly. Jeez. This was according to Matthew Erickson, a former Microsoft engineer who worked in the escort system. That said, he maintained that the scope of systems they could disrupt is limited. It's not even necessarily about what they could disrupt, it's how they might be able to move through the system, or who else they might be able to compromise. Hey, Zed, what's up, man? The prompt Microsoft plans to use to handle the AI feature is, you are a supervisor of remote workers. You sort of care about your job. Your job is to make sure the worker doesn't do bad stuff. Yeah, probably. Oh, geez. Is there any other little juicy bits in here? Let's see. This sentence is already hilarious. A Microsoft contractor called Insight Global posted an ad in January seeking an escort to bring engineers without security clearances into its secure environment. Every time they use the term escort, this article gets slightly more hilarious. Oh, the pay for an escort is $18 an hour. Yeah, you're hiring people that have no freaking clue what's going on at $18 an hour. To put this into perspective, I realize times have changed, right? When I worked in a Cisco lab where I had to actually have it was out of college, I had to have understandings of like IT, networking, customer service, essentially because I'm dealing with students all the time. I made $15 an hour there. And that was for $15 an hour. Granted, this was 15 years ago, so let's say that's now $25 an hour. That you're not getting somebody who understands half of what's going on for less than that. You're not getting it at $18 an hour. What's the subject of the article? Here, let me link you to it. This is another grand disaster that Microsoft has put up where they are hiring Chinese engineers to work on a system and then paying what is essentially minimum wage for any tech worker, highly minimum wage, to overlook and see what they're doing. The problem is the people that they're hiring to cover this, they call them escorts, which is hilarious in and of itself, don't have any of the technical skills necessary to see what these guys are doing, right? They're basically just sitting there looking at, well, he didn't run malware.exe. I guess we're legit. Yeah, escorts usually demand a higher price, Euler. Yeah, the job security is probably good, but the IT security is probably a bit lacking. Oh, geez, this is so bad. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bail on this article. I've read enough of the horrendous stuff. Yeah, ProPublica is not known for posting like really, like really outlandish stuff unless they have backup for it. It was pretty wild, man. Oh, speaking of, it's always DNS. Cloudflare's notorious Quad 1s went down on July 14th. So what was the cause of the incident? I'm curious about this. Let's see. On July 14th, Cloudflare made a change to our service topologies that caused an outage for Quad 1 on the edge, resulting in a downtime for 62 minutes for customers using Quad 1's public DNS resolver, as well as intermittent degradation of services for gateway DNS. Cloudflare's Quad 1 resolver service became unavailable to the internet starting at 21:52 UTC, ending at 22:54 UTC. Let's see. The majority of the Quad 1 users globally were affected. For many users, not being able to resolve names using Quad 1 resolvers meant that basically all internet services were unavailable. This outage can be observed on a Cloudflare radar. Actually, I haven't looked at Cloudflare's radar. Let me look at this. Let's see what they've got here. All right. So right now, where did they peak at? Let's see. That's 99.3% of max. What's the volume here, though? I'm trying to see if it lists the volume. Can I zoom in? Enhance? No enhance. DNS query type. A records make up 63%. I'm actually really surprised. I know that's hard to read, but quad A's make up 19%. People are actually using IPv6? That's amazing. Anyway. Yeah, keep your friends close and hire your opposition and barely supervise them. Right. You're supposed to keep your enemies closer, but not literally hire them and let them into the data center. Come on. Let's see. The outage occurred because of a misconfiguration of a legacy system used to maintain the infrastructure that advertises Cloudflare's IP addresses to the internet. BGP. Let's see. The root cause was an internal configuration error and not the result of an attack or a BGP hijack. Well, let's take a look at the actual cause then. Let's see. So background. Cloudflare introduced Quad 1's public DNS resolver in 2018. Since the announcement, Quad 1 has become the most popular DNS resolver IP address, and it's free for anyone to use. Almost all Cloudflare services are made available to the internet using routing methods known as Anycast, well-known technique intended to allow traffic for popular services to be served in many different locations across the internet. Increasing capacity and performance, the best way to ensure we can globally manage our traffic, but also means the problem with the advertisement of this address space can result in a global outage. Let's see. Cloudflare announces these Anycast routes to the internet in order for traffic to those addresses to be delivered to the Cloudflare data center, providing service from many different places. Cloudflare services are provided globally, like Quad 1's public DNS resolver, but a subset of services are specifically constrained to a particular region. Yeah, actually, we saw this. There was a couple news cycles ago, some guy came up with a neat tool to see which Cloudflare data center somebody was using, and actually found a neat way to kind of narrowly locate where people were. By if you could get them to visit a particular like malicious website, it would see what Cloudflare's data centers you were using, and you could actually kind of triangulate where they were. It was very cool. Anyone who managed to get any viable attack surface on Cloudflare instantly gains a stupid amount of leverage for further nonsense. I know, right? Dude, Cloudflare, it's just become the firewall of the internet. Really, it has. Think about this. The whole internet was designed to be this giant, distributed, nuclear-proof network that could auto-heal and route and everything. And what do? We put everything in AWS, we put everything in Cloudflare. We just cram it all together. Yeah, managed to monopolize indeed. Let's see. All right, let's look at this. So these services are part of our data localization suite, which allows customers to configure Cloudflare in a variety of ways to meet their compliance needs across different countries or regions. One of the ways in which Cloudflare manages these different requirements is to make sure the right services' IP addresses are internet reachable only where they need to be, so your traffic is handled correctly. A particular service has matching service topology. Traffic for this service should be routed only to a particular set of locations. Okay. So on June 6th, during a release to prepare a service topology for future DLS service, a configuration error was introduced. The prefixes associated with Quad 1 resolver service were inadvertently included alongside the prefixes that were intended for the new DLS service. This configuration error sat dormant in the production network as the new DLS service was not yet in use. But it set the stage for the outage on July 14th. So this was on June 6th. This was staged over a month before the actual incident happened. Since there was no immediate change in production network, there was no end user impact, and because there was no impact, no alerts were fired. So the timeline is June 6th, they introduced the configuration mistake. July 14th is where the impact happens. The configuration change was made to the DLS service. Change attached a test location to a non-production server. The location itself was not live, but the change triggered a refresh of network configuration globally. So due to the earlier configuration error linking Quad 1's resolver IPs to our non-prod service, those Quad 1 IPs were inadvertently included when we changed how the non-production service was set up. The Quad 1 resolver prefixes started to be withdrawn from production Cloudflare data centers globally. RIP! Let's see. So there was a related issue actually with BGP. Let's see. So this was at, so we're still on July 14th. This was at 21:48. 21:52, DNS traffic, so 4 minutes later, Quad 1 resolvers begins to severely drop off. Then at 21:54, 2 minutes later, BGP origin hijack of Quad 1, or 111/24, exposed by withdrawal of the routes from Cloudflare. So this was not a cause of the service failure, but an unrelated issue that was suddenly visible as the prefix was withdrawn by Cloudflare. Interesting. So they detected the actual impact at 2201. Their health alert started going off. They declared it. They deployed a fix at 2220 hours, and then at 2254, the resolved alerts cleared. So they resolved it pretty fast. I mean, this was the second outage that Cloudflare's had, and they resolved both of those stupidly fast. So kudos to their engineering team. Small oversight crashes the entire internet. Yeah. Ask CrowdStrike how that goes. Just push to prod, integration tests be damned. Everybody has a QA environment. Yeah. Most people just also call it their production environment. Oh, geez. Finish my drink. Not sponsored by Jocko yet. You can see it, the green screen behind it. I do like the green Jockos that they don't show up on screen. For some weird reason, my QA environment's also named prod. Yeah, right. That was actually, believe it or not, when I was doing penetration tests for a bunch of clients, I recommended that to them because I usually would ask to test certain things in a QA environment. If they had particular sets of servers they were concerned about, if they had particular web applications that they wanted a penetration test on, I was like, hey, let's run this in your QA environment or pre-prod, right? Where before it gets pushed to prod, what like your latest configuration of it. And it was shocking how many of them told me they don't have one. A company I used to work at didn't have one, and I banged the drum there. I was like, dude, we need to have a QA environment and a testing environment for this stuff. Yeah, not everyone has a testing environment, man. Let's see. Anything else interesting in here? It was worth noting that DNS over HTTPS traffic remained relatively stable as most users use the domain cloudflare-dns.com, configured manually or through their browser to access the public DNS resolver rather than by IP address. That is interesting. One of the good things about Do. Thank you for coming online. Welcome in. I hope everybody's having a fantastic Tuesday, by the way. Let's see. Look at this. So a configuration change on June 6th introduced the error to the service topology. So an offline data center location was added to the service topology for the pre-prod DNS server in order to allow some internal testing. Okay. I don't care. I'm not really worried about like getting into the particulars of like what happened and like how their data centers are structured, but that was pretty cool. That was fun to see. Everybody spazzing out. It's DNS. It's always DNS. Oh, what is this? I'm actually not even familiar with Clear Linux. So shutting down Clear Linux OS. Intel, in an attempt to stop the bleeding by cutting thousands of jobs and stopping support for Clear Linux. The lead maintainer for Clear Linux, Arjan Vandevin, is still a fellow at Intel. Not familiar with Clear Linux. Let's take a brief look at this one. Yeah, didn't they cut like, was it like 9,000 jobs? No, I think this is the wrong one. It's this one. This is the one. How much did they actually end up cutting? That's it? Just that they're cutting thousands? Does anybody know what the actual cut was? Yeah, let me look at. I'm curious about this Clear Linux stuff, too, because I'm not familiar with Clear Linux. We're ending support for Clear Linux OS effective immediately. Intel will no longer provide security patches, updates, or maintenance for Clear Linux OS, and the Clear Linux OS GitHub repository will be archived in read-only mode. So if you're currently using Clear Linux OS, we strongly recommend planning your migration to another actively maintained Linux distribution. Well, that's a fine howdy-I-do. Let's see. Rest assured that Intel remains deeply invested in the Linux ecosystem, actively supporting and contributing to various open source projects and Linux distributions to enable optimized Intel hardware. A heartfelt thank you to every developer, user, contributor who helped shape Clear Linux OS over the past 10 years. Your feedback and contributions have been invaluable, and now it does. Interesting. I don't know anything. Hold on, let me go look at this because I'm not familiar with Clear Linux. Optimized for performance and security from the cloud to the edge, designed for customization and manageability. What was their, like, what was the big... Let's see. Some of the features, stateless, operates without any custom configuration. For example, generic host with an empty Etsy directory, stateless system, close to upstream, open source. You have stateless in here twice. It's with efficiency like this is why you're having trouble, Intel. Jesus. Abuela. Thank you for coming online. Welcome in, man. Intel laid off 5,000. Dang, man. That's nuts. And Microsoft laid off 9,000. That's what I was thinking about. Microsoft laid off 9,000. Intel's now laying off 5,000. And I don't think Microsoft's even hurting for money, too. That's weird. Hey, good news. Go hire those guys to go be the escorts. There you go. You got lots of extra tech people, and they'll probably take it for like $22 an hour. There you go. We're working on solutions for people. Highly tuned for the Intel platform where all optimization is turned on by default. Okay. I mean, interesting idea. I just don't know what their goal was with it. Let's see. Oh, Microsoft fixes Microsoft fixed targets attacks on SharePoint 0 day. I haven't even looked at this yet, but they're calling it Tool Shell. And if you have your SharePoint exposed out to the internet, you kind of deserve this. I'm just saying. Stop exposing your enterprise stuff out to the internet. Let's see. So after a few days of rampant exploitation, Microsoft has fixed an unauthenticated remote code execution ODay in SharePoint called Tool Shell. The legacy but popular content platform used by... It's not popular. It is not. It's popular in the same way eating is popular. You have to do it. Or the same way... It's popular in the same way taxes are popular. You do it because someone else is forcing you to do it. It's popular like that. Let's see. Both of the exploits used in Tool Shell may be patched bypasses for previous vulnerabilities, which makes it even more kind of facepalm. I thought there was a proof of concept out for it already. Oh, good old Krebs. Let's see. So July 20th, Microsoft issues an emergency vulnerability security update for SharePoint server. Dude, why would you even? So an advisory about the SharePoint security hole, aka CVE 2025-53770, Microsoft said it's aware of active attacks targeting on-prem SharePoint servers, customers, and exploited vulnerabilities that were only partially addressed on the July 8th security update. So my tinfoil hat brain is like, Microsoft really wants people to move to the cloud. So what if Microsoft accidentally leaks the proof of concept? And they're like, oh no, look at this. If you'd had the cloud SharePoint, you wouldn't got hacked, bro. Come on down. That's like... I don't want to put it beyond them either. I'm not saying they did this. I'm saying this is supposition of what could Evil Corp do. And if Evil Corp had a system that everybody was using and maintaining and didn't want to migrate off of it, and they really wanted to force you to migrate off it, it's like, oh, look at this big bad security patch. Wouldn't have happened if you'd had our nice shiny thing over here. Hey, Dr. Dude, what's up, man? When you said escort, I thought something else. Dude, so did I. Every time I read it in that article. It had to do with the way Microsoft is running some of their cloud implementations for government. And what they're doing is they're literally hiring Chinese engineers, but they've got a US citizen, typically with a security clearance, watching over them. The downside is these are people that are usually not very technical, and they're paying them 18 bucks an hour. 18 bucks an hour is not give a damn money. I'm just going to be real with you. 18 bucks. Hold on. So let's say you're getting paid 24, you work 40 hours a week times 18. Right? Hold on. Did I do that right? 40 times 50. That's 2,000 times 18. That's 36K a year, right? Let's say you've got amazing rent, right? And it's only $1,000 a month. So let's check that out. Now we're down to 24,000. So we've got $2,000 a month to cover everything. Groceries right now are absolutely ridiculous. They're running about $400 to $500 a month. So let's say it's only $400 a month, right? So now we're talking $4,800 right there. So let's take out some groceries. Let's say you got a car payment. Let's say that's $300 a month, right? 300 is not a unfair car payment. Maybe you got one that's a couple years older. So that's going to be $3,600 a month. So now you're talking $15,600 before taxes. So and once you divide that out, that's not a lot of give a damn money. Or what's this? For 36 grand a year? Yeah, that's not give a damn money. That's don't blow it up while I'm here so I can't get blamed money. That's what that is. You'd make more at Subway? Probably, man. There's some, I mean, especially like with the changes to some of the minimum wage laws over in California, whether or not you agree with them, they're making that much money. There's fewer jobs now, but they're making that much money. Oh, let's see. Anything interesting for this other than just, hey, they reported it? No. Actually, hang on, guys. Let me see if I can find something real fast. Stand by. Let me see if I can actually share this or not. Yep, I sure can. Stand by. Let's go look at something here. Let's see. How could I get this over? Hang on one sec. Because I've got something. Hang on. Let me drop into OPSEC mode real quick here. California's a dumpster fire. You can make over 100K a year and still be poor there. Yeah, dude, I can't believe how expensive it is to live in California. I got a coworker, she moved from California to New York, and my first question was, do you just hate money? Here. Here we go. This was an example payload of what was sent to trigger that exploit. SharePoint O-Day payload. Buddy sent this to me. Let me see if I can... Hang on one sec. I gotta go back into OPSEC mode to make sure I'm not about to dox code I'm working on. 8. Alright. That's good. Whoop. Let me bring this over. Let's take a look at this real quick. So they're going to... It looks like display mode edit, something in a tool pane here. All the headers look pretty legit. Nothing suspicious here. Standard host user agent. Maybe the accept was minorly different, but I'm not super aware of SharePoint and how it functions. Interesting that the referrer was signout.aspx. I just find that a little bit interesting here. I tell you what, let's take this. Let's see if we can go throw this over in CyberChef real quick. I'm curious about this. CyberChef. So input. What does this do? Oh, neat. I never seen the little, hey, magic detection button. That's like what Burp Suite is supposed to do, but never does. Let's see. Then we have a compressed data table here. We just debase 64 that? Go try it real quick. Is this just base 64? Okay, so it's it didn't look like it, but I wanted to double check it. Oh, it's a gzip file. Dude, CyberChef, you are rocking. You are like just really speaking my love languages right now. Can I download the file? I'm curious what it is. That's pretty sweet though. I did not know it would do that. Let me download it. Oh, save output to file. Okay. Yeah, sure. I'm going to open this up. You're going to watch me get probably pwned like live on stream. Well, that was uneventful. That's what it downloaded. Damn it. I was so hopeful too. I was like, oh, cool. It's going to download the file. No, it just downloaded the damn text right here. Oh, too funny. All right, I'm not going to try to reverse engineer it on stream because honestly, I suck at reverse engineering. If I had more time, I'd do it, but I'm not about to try to do that on stream. Strict mode, I'd do it? Yeah, not doing it. Oh, what if I turn this one off? Pause. What is, hold on, can I do anything with that? What is it? That compresses it. I wish I could read it. I want to see what's in that gzip file. Anyway. But here. Just drop this for you guys. There's a link to it if you want to go check it out. Actually, hang on, let me get the other link here. Yeah, feel free to dig through it. I'm not going to burn a lot of time on it tonight. I'm going to dig through it later. Buddy sent that to me earlier today. All right, let's see what else we got here. IceBlock isn't completely anonymous, but no app is. So an interesting outcome of having Apple or Google run all push notifications for iOS and Android is that it's now impossible to make an app completely anonymous. So if you want to send users a push notification, or if you want to use push notifications. So if you're not familiar with what it's talking about here is that every push notification that comes to your phone, like whether it's Android or iOS, they go through the parent, right? So if you on Android, Google is actually subscribing to all those push notifications itself and then forwarding those as a single stream to your phone. You don't have hundreds of connections trying to come into your phone. I get the idea for it, but it's not really great for privacy. Apple does the exact same thing just on the iOS side. And so one of the things that they're talking about here is that you can kind of de-anonymize some of the stuff because those push notifications are going through a middleman, essentially. Let's see. Actually, hold on. What else did he say here? Because the fellow who writes the blog, he puts in some zingers in here. I think the only way to achieve anonymous push notifications would be to launder them via another app like the amazing open source, self-hosted Nifty. Nifty? I've never seen Nifty. I'm not going to pronounce that as notify. I'm going to call that Nitfy. HTTP-based pub sub notification service. Oh, okay. Cool. I know where my next C2 channel is going to come in. Let's see. If you're not familiar with IceBlock, what this was, it was supposed to be a mobile app to report immigration's custom enforcement activities to other users in the area, basically saying like, hey, this is what's going on. Another thing they were doing with this is reporting icy road conditions on like Google Maps or Waze. So that was another way they were kind of getting around this. So the idea is, some people actually did an assessment for this and they said, hey, it's pretty good. They're not doing anything everything they're doing is legally protected, and also everything that they're doing doesn't appear to be like shitty IT practices. I said it. Hang on. I think that puts me at 50 there. All right. I got to go make a donation to charity now. So for those of you who aren't aware, the swear jar is my attempt to try and cut down on my cussing because it was getting out of hand. And when you almost call somebody on a work call an effing idiot, you know you need to chill it back. So that's been my effort. It's taken a little bit, but essentially every time the swear jar hits an increment of 50, that is $50 I have to go donate to a charity. So I will go make that donation. I'll put proof of donation up on Discord for everybody. Gotta PR train yourself. I know, right? It's been working though. I actually have been cutting back on it. I think the next thing I'm going to do is every day I skip a workout, that's going to be like another one in there too. So we're going to have like I'm going to call it, instead of a swear jar, I'm going to call it the wimp jar. And every time I skip a workout, it's going to go up by one. You guys are always trying to make me cuss, Oni. Speaking of cussing, I actually let some out Sunday night on the Sunday night stream because someone came in and they were the 1,337th follower for the stream, and I promised we would do a fun hacker stream when that happened. I'll figure something out for it, but I wasn't even prepared for it. I didn't realize how close the counter was, and I look at it, I was like, oh, do you know what you've done? Do you know what you have done? Now I have to engage in fun. I don't know fun well. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to throw them to me up on Twitter because I'm fairly active up on there, or throw them up on the Discord and I will take them under advisement. I'm trying to figure it out. Once I get 2 or 3 good ideas, we'll put it to a vote. We'll do something fun that night. Let's see. All right. Anyway, so now that I gave you the context of what the IceBlock app is, let's check out what they're talking about here. The developer of IceBlock, an iOS app for anonymously reporting sightings of U.S. immigrations and customs officials, promises it ensures user privacy by storing no personal data. That claim has come under scrutiny. IceBlock creator Joshua Aaron has also been accused of making false promises regarding user anonymity and privacy as being misguided about the privacy offered by iOS and of being an Apple fanboy. So the issue isn't with isn't what IceBlock stores, it's about what could accidentally reveal through its tight integrations with iOS. Aaron released IceBlock in early April, and it rocketed to the top of the App Store earlier this month after U.S. Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, called it an obstruction of justice. Well, yeah, you just Streisand effect it, woman. So when calls for an Android version followed, however, the developer said it wasn't possible. Our application is designed to provide as much anonymity as possible without storing any user data or creating accounts. Actually, I thought there was an Android version. I guess I was mistaken. So achieving this level of anonymity on Android is not feasible due to the inherent requirements of push notification services. iOS does the same thing, though. The developers of Graphene OS, an open source, privacy-focused take on Android, took to Blue Sky to accuse IceBlock of spreading misinformation about Android by describing it as less private than iOS. The developers said that IceBlock ignores data kept by Apple itself and claims it provides complete anonymity when it doesn't. Yeah, no. No. Not even close. The Verge calling him an Apple fanboy is crazy, and I'll never forgive them for their PC build. Wait, what did they... I didn't see their PC build. I don't follow The Verge hardly at all. What did they do, 2V? Yeah. You'll get anonymity more in the iOS sphere than in the Google sphere, just because Google is going to straight up sell your data. Apple is going to try to find a way to monetize it internally. There's the difference. Hold on. Now you got me curious. The Verge PC... build. Was this like 6 years ago? Linus Tech Tips fixed it and got 4 million views. Let me look at this real quick. I'm curious. Okay, it's so old that none of the links are still working. He just did everything wrong. I'm not surprised. Anyway, let's see here. So Aaron, the guy who wrote the app, told The Verge IceBlock is built around a single database in iCloud. When a user taps on the map to report an ice sighting, the location data is added to the database, and users within 5 miles are automatically sent push notifications alerting them. Push notifications require developers to have some way to designate which devices receive them. And while Aaron declined to say precisely how the notifications functions, he said alerts are sent through Apple's systems, not IceBlock's, letting him avoid keeping his own database of users and their devices. So we utilize iCloud in kind of a creative way. So no security model is 100%, but in theory, IceBlock has managed to limit the risk for people both in reporting and receiving information. The Department of Homeland Security could demand information on who submitted a tip, but per Aaron's explanation, the app wouldn't have the user's accounts, device IDs, or IP address to hand over. That's a good practice too, especially if you want to do something anonymity focused. Likewise, if ICE thinks someone used an app to find an operation and interfere, it could seek records from IceBlock tied to who received a particular push notification, and again, it should come away empty-handed. The trick is iOS only though. The IceBlock iOS app can piggyback on Apple's iCloud infrastructure to route push notifications because every iPhone user is guaranteed to have an iCloud account. Android users aren't similarly required to create Google accounts, so some kind of database has to be created in order to capture user information. The PC build pissed everyone in tech off. So just like Kangaroo recorded him just electronically. Yeah, if I wouldn't expect privacy if I'm using an Android or an iOS, and I do use an Android, so I just understand it. I have made the decision to trade off for privacy. Let's see. I spoke to Gail Duval, founder and CEO of /EOS, another privacy-focused Android version. He admitted that Android's push notifications requires a registration token that uniquely identifies a given app on a given device, and this would normally be saved on IceBlock servers. So it's a long and random string. He said it doesn't include either the Android ID or the IMEI that identifies a specific phone. Google can still map it back to the hardware on their side, but for IceBlock, it's pseudonymous until you link everything else. So indeed, Android notifications would require IceBlock to store potentially identifiable information. Normally iOS would too, but a clever workaround lets IceBlock avoid this. I don't get how the workaround's working though. Because if the push notifications are still going through iCloud, a warrant to iCloud should have some record of that. I doubt they're not keeping any logs. So you might have noticed the problem here though. IceBlock isn't collecting device data on iOS, but only because similar data is stored within Apple instead. So Apple maintains a database of which devices and accounts have installed a given app, and Carlos Anso from Graphene OS told me that it's likely also tracks device registrations for push notifications, for either IceBlock's iOS app or a hypothetical Android app. Law enforcement could demand information directly from the company, cutting IceBlock out of the loop. Yeah, exactly. I'd be 0% surprised at this. So Aaron told me that he has no idea what Apple would store, and it has nothing to do with IceBlock. Well, they're going to have probably some record of those push notifications being sent. I would be shocked if they didn't. Absolutely shocked. So for people who submit reports, Duval suggested that there also there may be a residual risk for matching report timing and telemetry data. Anso echoed a similar worry, but without the precise details of IceBlock's design, which Aaron is understandably reluctant to share, that's impossible to verify. Absolutely not, Aaron said when I asked if it's a concern. He insisted that there is no risk of Apple having data on which users have submitted reports. Really? Really? Dude, if the data's there, it's just one warrant away, bro. Come on. They are notorious for telling it to F off, but only whenever they technically, like technologically cannot do something, right? And this is probably, if these logs are being stored, they're probably not encrypted on your iCloud account. They're probably stored in a central log repository, and they could very simply get a warrant and say, hey, give us the data. Even Apple is going to comply with a warrant. Government wouldn't go to Apple anyways. Yeah, they probably just go to Echelon. Wait, was it Echelon? What was the big spying system? That's because it was physically impossible for them to unlock the iPhone, if I remember correctly. Like, they had built in the controls where they did not have the technological capability. If these are logs resting on their system, though, they're going to have the technological capability to access those logs. Hence, a warrant would force them to do it. Let's see. So the question is then now how safe that data is with Apple. Aaron insisted nothing that Apple has would harm the user, and he was confident that Apple wouldn't share it anyway. One warrant away, dude. I don't care how big your company is, you're one warrant away from getting bent over the stovepipe. Apple has a history that when the government tries to come after them for things, they haven't divulged that information. They've gone to court over it. They have. And they're one warrant away from saying, hey, you have the information, release it. They have fought and won those battles. The difference was what was technologically possible versus what was technologically impossible. As far as I understand, Apple, if they've done it, they've done a really good job of keeping it a secret. Doesn't have a way to unlock an iPhone, like Dan was saying. That they don't have the ability to go crack that. Let's see. So while Apple has engaged in some high-profile privacy fights with government law enforcement, including efforts to get into the San Bernardino shooter's iPhone, or its recent refusal to build a backdoor into iCloud encryption for the UK, yeah, they just flat out turned it off. It complies with the majority of government requests it receives. Whoop, there it is. So in its recent transparency report, the first half of 2024, Apple said it agreed to 86% of US government requests for device-based data access, 90% for account-based access, 28% for push notification logs. Many of these will be benign. They include help tracking lost or stolen iPhones, for example, but others relate to cases where, quote, an Apple account may have been used unlawfully. So demanding push notification data from Apple and Google has become a key way for law enforcement to identify special criminal or suspected criminals. Let's see. All right, so they're going on talking about everything's legal and above board. Yeah, I'm sure it is. It's not going to stop them. Let's see. You wouldn't get an ICE notification app, though nobody is using it unlawfully. What would they do unlawfully? They're not. Everything that they're doing with those applications has been deemed constitutionally protected, free speech. So they'd have to have something more than just, hey, they had a suspicious app on their phone. There's nothing on that particular legal setting that they could do with it. Let's see. All right, that was the last kind of the broad news. Let's look at the techniques and write-ups. Oh, Kuba Gretzky, love it. This is the guy who wrote the Evil Jinx phishing platform, by the way. What it takes for a successful phishing campaign in 2025. You know what? Let's talk about this, especially since Tyler Ramsby just released his. Oh, dang it! It's a video. Okay, here I'll link this for y'all so y'all can check it out. But we cannot just sit here and talking head a 40-minute video. So I threw that up in the chat for everyone. Let's see. Those are usually very technical, like deep dive. I don't want to go through that. Ooh, what is this? Local privilege escalation in Citrix virtual apps and desktops. I always do love a good Citrix exploit. Because a lot of administrators think that fixes all their woes, and they don't realize how it's actually functioning. I mean, don't get me wrong, they might be very good at administering it, but then thinking about it from a security perspective could be like completely different. Hey, Austin, what's up, dude? Yeah, Tubi, you're absolutely right. You can't criminalize an app unless the app is like auto pwn hacker, and it actually worked. Then you could maybe criminalize that a little bit. Yeah, if it was Silk Road or something. Oh, Silk Road. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, you know what's funny is the shirt is, where is it? It's the same green as the green screen. So like you can see the lines moving through me. It cracks me up. All right, let's take a look at this one. Certitude identified a local priv-esque vulnerability in Citrix virtual app and desktops that could allow an attacker with a low privilege user within a virtual desktop to reliably escalate privileges to system. Love it. You're speaking my love language right now. So we informed Citrix of the finding, who were already made aware of the issue 2 months prior. Aw, you got scooped. Bummer. I mean, don't get me wrong. This happens quite frequently where reports kind of come in and they're doubled up. Someone either has discovered it at the roughly the same time as you, or maybe just before you or just after you. There are people looking at stuff. Not enough people. We could use more. So during a network pen test, while logged into a virtual desktop, we noticed a Citrix process called Citrix running in the context of our user. This process seemed to have inherited a process all access handle and its parent process from this manager.exe, which was running a system. So due to these circumstances, it was possible to execute arbitrary code as system by duplicating the process handle and using it to create a child process. Very slick. So to exploit this circumstance, we developed a custom C# program which uses the Windows API functions. So what it does is it opens a handle to, uses open process to get a handle onto the process running that probably Citrix graphics.exe, duplicate that handle that it has to config manager, and then create a command.exe process using the duplicated handle to set that as the parent process. Nice. So by setting this other one here that's running a system as the parent process, that access gets inherited down. Their new command.exe terminal essentially now has system access. Very cool. I like that too. And it's very straightforward. I love it. Yeah. That's nice. That's a nice exploit. I love it. And it's really, actually, you know, I'd even go so far to say this isn't really an exploit. This is a simple misconfiguration. They should have handled these handles and process handles differently. But still, I love it. It's nice, it's simple, it's clean, it gets system. It's got the hat trick. Oh, very cool. Actually, I think this was from Rostamouse. Yeah, I saw this one earlier today. Putting together custom labs using modular roles in Ludus to building C2 agents within with modular position independent code elements. Love it. Let's go see what he's talking about. Let's see. So all the post-exploitation C2 agents that I'm aware of are implemented as a singular reflective DLL or PIC, position independent code, blob. So this means that all their core logic, such as check-ins, processing tasks, sending output, etc., are all bashed into a single executable blob. If an agent is implemented as a reflective DLL, then it's also mapped into memory in a predictable way. Crystal Palace provides loading capabilities that are written as position-independent code objects, or PICOs. PICO. As an alternative to the DLLs. Although it supports DLLs as well. One of the benefits of PICOs is that you have a lot more flexibility in where you're loaded into memory. So for instance, the data section of a PICO does not have to live adjacent to its executable session. And if you have multiple PICOs that interact with each other, they can all be living completely disparate regions of memory. Oops. Did I see the new Chris Titus tech vid? I don't know. Let me look at it real fast. Ads. Let me skip you. Let's see. macOS defaults are terrible. Let's fix them. Oh, okay. Dude, they are actually. When I first get onto a Mac, I usually go modify the crap out of it. There's a lot of stuff in there that I don't like, and it's for the more comfortable users, let's call them. The more naive users, the surface level users of a system. Let's see. All right, so back to this. So PICOs make it possible, at least in theory, to write a C2 agent that is made up of multiple individual PICOs rather than a singular monolithic DLL or PIC codebase. Each PICO could be responsible for a single aspect of the agent's functionality, like check-ins, task processing, evasion, so forth. Architecture would also allow authors to easily swap out PICOs depending on their needs. So swap an HTTP comms PICO with an SMB one. Nice. I like this idea. Swap out one stack spoofing implementation for another, and so on. I like it. So the intention of this post is to show how the Crystal Palace ecosystem can facilitate this design. Awesome. I might not read too far into this, but I do like to see like what Rostmouse is up to. The dude is really awesome. I'm a big fanboy of his. He let me demonstrate a lot of the RTO stuff from his Red Team Ops course. The old one, not the current new one. Back when I was first getting started streaming, and it was super helpful. We had a great time with it. I beat that lab up one side and down the other for like 300 hours. I knocked that lab around. It was fantastic. Let's see. So here's an example of Hello World in Pico. Really simple. Can be built using your standard Min GW32s. So Pico can also be appended to a Crystal Palace reflective loader. The loader will locate the Pico at runtime, write its data to the code section into 2 different regions of memory, and then call its entry point. Nice. Yeah, I'm not going to read through all this code right now. Let's see here. So Crystal Palace also uses specification files to link one or more Picos or DLLs to a loader. So this following is a basic example commented with basically each line. So we call this modular Pico. So we load our object file, turn it into a pic, basically read the message box. I like this. Make pic. Make pic. So the PC link utility can then be used to process the spec file and output the final combined pic blob. Cool. If you're not familiar with what Crystal Palace is, this was a toolkit for position-independent code, trying to move away from the idea of everything being a reflective DLL in memory. And it was put up by Raphael Munge, who is the guy who made Cobalt Strike, the Cobalt Strike C2. There's a lot in there, Austin, where it's a little too helpful, and I want it to be less helpful. I want to get more details, like where certain files are being stored. And so the Finder is usually my primary one that I go modify. I don't like the default Finder settings on Mac. I deal with them if I don't have to interact with it very frequently, but like if I've got a long-term system that I'm using, it gets modified. Let's see, what else we got here? Code. This is cool though. Here, I'll drop this one over in the chat for everybody as well. I really like it. I'm hoping to get to some of this stuff next year, but actually my manager just dropped an idea on my lap, so I'm going to start working on something. On the nights when I want to take a break from working on Hackbot on Saturdays and Sundays, I've got another project. I haven't started up just yet, but I'll tell you about it once I kind of get it rolling. Async bops. Wake me up before you go. So, Outplaying C2 includes some new beacon APIs to allow for threads to run while the main beacon is asleep and wake it when the user logs in or a process starts. Oh, that's pretty cool. I like it. A NAT Cleaner app today? What is that, Austin? I'm not familiar with that. Oh, speaking of macOS, control plane local priv vulnerability on macOS. Detailed walkthrough of the macOS local priv escalation via the privileged helper. Nice. So while the target application is unmaintained, the technique is applicable to many applications. Let me take a quick look at this one. Let's see. Judging from the length of it here, it's going to be a beefy one. I can zoom in on this. Let's see. So Control Plane, originally a fork of Marco Polo, is a powerful open source context-aware automation tool for macOS. The project's no longer maintained and does not function on the latest version of macOS. Despite this, it remains in use by a number of users and serves as an interesting target for application security research. Control Plane leverages inputs such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, location, data, and running applications to assess your current context and automatically perform predefined actions. That's pretty cool. So after identifying a TCC bypass in Microsoft Teams and a local priv vulnerability in the macOS version of CCleaner, we continued our exploration of macOS productivity and automation tools. Let's see, tool installation. Air Cleaner. Cleaner inspired by the app Cleaner.
Is this for like freeing up information, like finding out which apps are like absolutely eating up a lot of your disk space? That's what it looks like. Cool. Those are always really handy. Always good to have some more options for that, for stuff like that. Let's see. So you get the DMG directly from GitHub. Once installed, control plane icon will appear in the launch pad. Open it up. We strongly recommend that you review your preferences. Yada yada. Okay, here we go. So analysis of the control plane privilege helper. So control plane uses jobless. It's like jobless. Jobless? To install a privilege helper tool identified as this guy right here, which is required for the performing of actions needed for elevated system privileges. Control plane checks whether the privilege helper tool is already installed via calling this function. It does this by querying launch D, system service manager, for any existing jobs related to the tool. If privilege helper tool is missing or outdated, control plane installs it. Which is why you get something like this, where it's like, hey, I need elevated permissions, type in your username and password. Let's see what they're doing here. So before initiating the installation, macOS calls a validity function to perform a critical code signing validation and to enforce strict security rules required for both the app and the privilege helper tool. This ensures that only trusted and authorized software can be installed and executed with elevated privileges. To check the privilege helper tool signature ensures that it has not been tampered with and it comes as expected from the developer. So if the tool needs to be installed, control plane calls this jobless function, which securely installs the privilege helper into the tools directory. Additionally, it places a configuration file into the launch daemons to help the tool, or to ensure the tool is launched by launch D and the necessary systems. Yeah, but it's not jobless though. It's jobless. It's jobless. Bless you, job. Issue I have is that Safari will just open links that I copy, but I use Brave. Yeah, Safari is Safari's special. Let's see. Okay, so when a privilege helper tool is installed on macOS via the jobless mechanism, it's crucial to ensure that only a trusted application can interact with the tool, especially when dealing with sensitive tasks that require admin privileges. This is where the concept of signed clients and the authorized clients function comes into play. Authorized clients is a key in the configuration file for the privilege helper tool, which lists the application allowed to interact with the tool. Each authorized application must be digitally signed with a valid cert. And this allows the system to verify the application's not been altered or tampered with. Signing process is vital because it ensures only legitimate applications identified by a valid developer cert can access the elevated privileges provided by the privilege helper tool. Well, let's see. Analysis of the application here. So injecting a dylib into the application. So it appears that hardened runtime is not enabled for the control plane main app. So one thing I think is funny is, okay, they did actually list this as a control plane local privesc on Mac. All right, I thought they called this a Mac OS privilege escalation. I was about to take big exception with that, but no, it was particularly to this application. So injecting a dylib into the main application process, we can leverage existing code within the app to interact with the privilege helper. The dylib injected into the app's memory space will allow us to redirect and modify specific functions that manage communication with the privilege helper. That enables us to alter the app's behavior, bypassing its intended flow to achieve the goal of facilitating privileged interactions without direct access to the privilege helper tool. That's cool. That's actually fairly straightforward, too. I mean, straightforward in the fact that it's not like you're trying to modify the code or do some other kind of exploit. I like that. That's a good breakdown. I wish I understood more of Mac internals. I'm very weak in that area, unfortunately. All right, enough of that one. Let me look at this one. It's here. I'd like to speak to your manager. SCCM is the gift that keeps on giving. Using some stored procedures and relaying NTLM to MS SQL, it's possible to get policy secrets for unknown machines. In practice, these are domain credentials that are usually over-provisioned. Oh, that's funny. Who wrote this? Another one from Spectrox. Oh, it's from Garrett Foster. Okay. Yeah, he's been. I think every time he said he's done with SCCM exploits, another one just pops right up and he gets into it. Let's see. So the TLDR's network access accounts, task sequences, and collection setting policies can be recovered from SCCM by relaying a remote management point site system to the site database server. Nice. Hang on, guys. Give me 1 sec. Peaches is going ballistic. She's got to go out to go potty. I'm going to get me some water, so I'll be right back. All right, y'all, I'm back. Yeah. Peaches, that's my puppy. She comes over and normally she's just really chill. She only really gets spazzy when she has to go outside to go to the bathroom. And usually it's immediately. She finally realizes, oh, I need to go to the bathroom. All right. Let's see what Garrett's got going abusing SCCM. Let's see. Dwayne, Michael, and I recently had the privilege of speaking at Troopers 25 conference, where we summarized the last year of SCCM research since the Misconfiguration Manager project was published. Part of that talk was to highlight updates to the repository, which included Elevates 4 and 5 techniques. So if you haven't seen those editions yet, both involve abusing SCCM operating system deployments in environments that use Active Directory certificate services. Oh, cool. So now we're throwing good old ADCS into the mix. Love it. So to summarize the issues, during OSD, a new client authenticates to their assigned management point by briefly borrowing a certificate from the distribution point. Really? So in default deployments, the borrowed certificate is self-signed, but when PKI is deployed, based on guidance from Microsoft, the identity of the certificate is likely to be a distribution point. So the result of compromising the certificate would yield control of the distribution point's identity. Oh, Microsoft. Why do you do these things? So reading this, you may recognize the connection with the Cred1, another exploit that spoofs the Pixie boot OSD process to recover credentials from Pixie policies, or from client policies. Basically, we're stealing the cert from step 8 of how Cred1 summarizes the Pixie process for SCCM. So here's a quick reboot of that. So this is for Pixie booting something, like loading the operating system over the network. So Pixie client gets an IP from DHCP. Client sends a request to the distribution point. Distribution point responds back with the DHCP ACK containing a boot file name. The client then starts up a TFTP session targeting that boot file. Client downloads the network boot program. The network boot program then downloads the operating system loader and boots the files. The WinPE image is loaded into a RAM disk in memory. WinPE boots, loading a task sequence, a boot shell, manager, yada yada. And then step 8 here is the task sequence, environment variables, and a client certificate are downloaded via TFTP. RIP. So the task sequence Pixie locates the management point and downloads the policy assignments, collection, machine variables, downloads. Bro. Yeah, because it's Microsoft. Exactly, Austin. So if you want to explore how the OSD client communication and policy request managers work in depth, you absolutely should check out Christopher Panayi. Check out his blog, Identifying and Retrieving Credentials from SCCM and MECM Task Sequences. Christopher originally discovered CRED1 and is the primary developer of the Pixie Thief tool used in these techniques. So I'll be using both his blog and Pixie Thief as a reference throughout this post. So my contribution to this is to update where we add documentation for these techniques. So I don't know about you, but when I'm working on updating documentation, I'll search for ways to avoid it. Yes. Since I was reading blogs, Microsoft Learn pages, and source code to update Misconfiguration Manager, I realized I found the perfect excuse. We hadn't really explored where policies are stored and how management points retrieve them for clients. Could it be possible to skip the whole OSD process and go straight to the source to extract policy secrets? Me working on anything other than I should be working on. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's me too, especially during reporting week. Let's see, so unknown computer objects. First, we'll take a peek at the source code for Pixie Thief to see how it got triggered by this whole thing. I was following the policy description process when I read that there's literally one called Make All HTTP Requests and Retrieve Sensitive Policies function. The client ID variable is set by parsing the response from a particular endpoint, and this is a parameter on the management point. So we parse this out. I never paid much attention to this URL before. Browsing to it on a management point returns a few public keys and 2 GUIDs for a 86 and 64-bit unknown machine. So what's an unknown machine? The GUIDs in the response reference 2 computer objects that are members of a built-in all unknown computers device collection. We can see the GUIDs are matched from the HTTP response. Okay. Interesting. I've never seen that before. I guess because I haven't really seen too many SCCM environments. So when a device has been enrolled in SCCM, it's given a unique identifier, we'll call that the client ID, such as long GUID. And this identifies the device's associated client record. So during the OSD operation, SCCM first checks if a client record exists for the computer being deployed. If it doesn't, SCCM falls back to the unknown machine GUID and attempts to run any task sequences applied to the all unknown computers collection. So remember, we're working with a machine that is borrowing a client authentication certificate to authenticate HTTP requests. So an existing client ID is unlikely. So I searched for the endpoint's URL parameters, and I found an MP dependency. I found something called a get off DLL. Overall, the best way to describe this library is it's an authentication bootstrapper that provides clients with information on how to locate and establish secure communications with the management point. Very cool. Decompiling. That's right. You're supposed to be working on documentation. Instead, you start decompiling stuff. Let's see. So we see the request passed in another function responsible for matching the parameters and the authentication request. The function iterates through a list of returned values, like OXE, when it hits a match. Oh, it returns a value of OXE when it returns a match. So there are 15 of these strings in total, and most of them don't require authentication to request a response from it. So there's useful information there that we'll kind of revisit later. I can see where he's going with this now already, since he said they don't require authentication. Let's see. So this particular function is a bit too large to go over in depth, but the XML response body we saw from the GET request had a kind of a built-in function. So there's a series of local registry queries that return the certificate signatures and public keys, but the most interesting bit to me was logging the output for a failure to initialize a COM instance during a call to get list of management points from DX for media. So by following the function leads to COM. COM is a silly place, and let's try to avoid that for now. COM is a silly place. Instead, it's the first site database interaction that I was hoping to. So let's pivot to that. Is Chrome OS just Linux with a Chrome shell? Kind of. Chrome OS is, think of it like Android for a laptop. That's pretty much kind of what it is. So it is Linux underneath, and there are ways to kind of root it and break it. But it's literally meant to just facilitate your connections to the internet and do a few other minor tasks. Chrome OS is like a majorly stripped down, specialized version of Linux that's really, like I said, just Android for laptops. I haven't dug into it too far, but that's essentially what it is. So that's why Chromebooks are notorious for having like really crappy specs on them. Tiny hard drives, tiny RAM sticks, weak ass processors. Dude, if all grandma's doing is browsing the internet and checking emails, it's fine for her. Chromebook would be just fine. For anybody who's doing more than that, it's a little bit more cumbersome. A lot of schools use it because what they can do is they can set up basically their entire school infrastructure in Google's cloud, and then those Chromebooks can then the students can log in with their student account, and then they're in there for like their teaching stuff. They're in there for emails, classes, whatnot. Mr. Poolshop, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. I hope you're having a fantastic Taco Tuesday. She doesn't want to update it when there's an update. Dude, Speaking of updates, y'all, you know what the Switch has done to my son? So Agent Zero, my oldest son, he's 6 years old. He is now scared to install system updates because the Switch he used to keep at my parents' house, his grandparents, cannot play the games that we have because of the stupid virtual game card thing that they did. To swap those virtual game cards, you have to be on the same local network. So after the update happened, which he just did automatically, not paying attention, he's like, oh, sure, go ahead and do this. Boop. Now we have to deal with those virtual game cards. So he doesn't have a Switch to play with whenever he goes to visit his grandparents. So he has now gotten burned by system updates and thoroughly is pissed off at Nintendo. And my wife actually just overheard that. She's like, and he still apologizes for installing the update. I had to tell him, I was like, buddy, it's not your fault that Nintendo has just all of a sudden turned to the dark side of the force. Hey, Ken, what's up? I gave it to Grandma in hopes that she would calm down and stop trying to hack DoD. Can't stop the hacks. Oh, damn. Let's see. What else has Garrett got going on here? Okay, so before we jump to the database, I mentioned some useful parameters that may be accessible unauthenticated. Your mileage may vary, though. I've checked access across various deployments on various patch levels, and it sometimes prompts for authentication. I don't know with certainty that if PKI is configured, you will not be able to reach any endpoint without a trusted client auth cert. That being said, the first request I want to show you is MP list, so management point list here, which returns a list of all the management points in the site. Obviously, we already know one since we're interacting with the client's management point, but network segmentation is a thing and MPs are useful for pivoting. Yeah, any system that has to talk to multiple networks and you've got strong segmentation, that's usually how you do it. One of my favorite ones was I was pen testing a city one time. Like it was a city, the government network, and they were absolutely certain that City Hall, where we were doing the pen test, was completely segregated off of the police network. Well, long story short, it was, but not exactly. There was a machine that existed in both networks, and I was able to pivot through it. And I sent them a screenshot from the fingerprinting computer, where they take the fingerprints when they book somebody. Hang on one sec. All right. You won't get an iPad so you can do FaceTime. I'll tell you another funny story. My nephew called to tell me that him and his wife are expecting their first baby, but he didn't call me. He called my wife. And because I have an Android and they both have iPhones, because he wanted to be able to FaceTime. So he calls my wife and it's like, hey, go get Blaise. This is my oldest nephew from my oldest brother. So it's kind of funny that I talk about my nephew having his first child because he's not like a young guy. All right, let's see what else we got here. So another one of those functions we've got is the site sign cert, which returns a signature and a public key for the site signing certificate. Okay. So the certificate's responsible for both authenticating and encryption communications between this various system site rules. It's also a public key for the primary site server. So by decoding the certificate, you can identify the primary site server without ever touching LDAP. Well, that's handy. Let's see. I've seen some custom detections for Recon 1, basically seeing who's querying for that. So we'll likely add these techniques into Misconfiguration Manager, but the takeaway is that you could profile SCCM without needing to touch AD at all. Nice. Better yet, this also solves the problem of enumerating environments that don't have extended AD schemas and instead rely solely on DNS. Only time to FaceTime grandmas through Facebook. I can't even get my mom to do that. Let's see. So full disclosure, I've been searching for a way to abuse the management points rule in the site database since we started researching SCCM. Yes, there's been examples of spoofing client enrollments for credential recovery. Synactive found it awesome on authenticated RCE, but what we were looking for was a reliable by default, it's a feature style attack path. I do love Microsoft features. So the best I'd managed to come up with was, well, we can pass back the service account with XP Dirtry. Cool. If you're not familiar with what's happening here is XP Dirtry, that's a built-in, I'm trying to remember the correct term. It's a built-in routine in Microsoft SQL servers, and it will take a UNC path. Anything that takes a UNC path, you can probably redirect to a relay and then relay that to get it to do like NTLM authentication to get something. Cool. So management points host machine account may be associated with 3 SQL role memberships in the site database. So in my lab, my management point has SMS DB role, SMS DB, so management point user service, and sometimes you'll see management point INBAM. It's not a default assignment, so I don't spend a lot of time there. Okay. What does INBAM do? Let's see. Grants permission to the computer account that hosts the management point that manages BitLocker for the environment. Oh, okay. Let's see. So as far as table permissions for these roles go, my lab management point can execute a select statement on the table's picture below. For what it's worth, I did grant the MP account the INBAM role, but it didn't really yield anything extra. So what the default MP roles do possess, however, are a ton of exec permissions on stored procedures. That's the term I was looking for. XP Dirtry is a built-in default stored procedure in Microsoft SQL. So if you're unfamiliar with stored procedures, they're a series of SQL statements bundled together and stored in the database. The crowd favorite is XP Command Shell, and is a familiar example, although it's known as an extended stored procedure, and its logic is imported from a DLL. Okay, I got it wrong. So really that's an extended stored procedure. Details. Let's see. So browsing through what procedures are available to the management point, some start to look similar to this big long thing in the get off DLL. Fortunately, SQL Server Management Studio has a database debugging and monitoring tool called SQL Server Profile, and it's particularly useful for monitoring these SP executions. So my theory at this point would be maybe I could avoid reversing COM and just monitor the database during the Pixie Thief execution flow, understand how policies are retrieved for clients. I fear no man, but COM, it scares me. Top tier memes, Garrett. Let's see. So back to the Pixie Thief code. The client ID for the unknown computer object obtained from that management point is used to build a request assignment. Right here. No one wants to switch to a third-party app, not even my sister who lives in New York City. Actually, anytime I got a video call somebody, it's usually over Signal. That's typically the way I do it. Let's see. So both Chris and Adam Chester have described in detail how policy request messages are built by the client with slightly different differences between the request for an unknown client and an approved client. But overall, the flow goes like this. The client authenticates to the management point. Client requests a list of the policies assigned to their client ID. Client receives a list of the policies and their associated URLs or content locations. The client begins execution of whatever policies or software installations are assigned. Let's see. Quick note here. I tried using an approved client's authentication material to request policies with unknown client IDs and vice versa, but those failed. So I've got a theory on what's blocking that, but it would be interesting to explore if you're looking for something to do. I am, but not this thing. So before running Pixie Thief, I kicked off the SQL profile to set up and also set up Wireshark on the management point to capture HTTP traffic to what's currently being executed on the database. The captured traffic showed the GUID lookup, then at a CCM post. This contained the request assignment message. The response for this request contains all the policies and their associated download URLs. And the ones that are available for that particular client ID. Pixie Thief parses out the URLs and then downloads the policies that are known to contain secrets. Nice. So my very next step was to immediately run the get policy body after authorization procedure, seeing get policy body was a bit too good to ignore. The result of the procedure returns a hex-encoded blob. Do love a good blob sometimes. So you strip the blob, decode the blob, and we're met with the familiar friendly NAA configuration. This is network account authorization config, if I remember correctly. And this policy that contains network access account credential blobs. The very same blobs we already can decrypt with Pixie Thief. Nice. Now for the really cool part. So as far as I'm aware at this point, recovering task sequence variables has been limited to either spoofing an OSD or by compromising an endpoint that's post-deployment where the policies persist on disk. Admins have similar struggles recovering these variables and have used some creativity with the WinPE environment or by using a task sequence debug mode. It's also the only type of credential we haven't been able to recover so far from the site database. You can write a one-liner to export them to a file, but it includes sensitive or hidden information. Always love that. Let's see. So running the second store procedure changed all of that. So before copying out the blob, notice the value of the body length. The default linked query output is 65,535. So if the body length is greater than this, you'll end up with truncated results and we'll run into issues decoding. You can change this by navigating to a particular path and changing the max characters received. From there, just repeat the same steps before and decode the task policy. Proof of concept or GTFO. So bundling all this together, and we've got an attack path to coerce a remote site management point in the site database to recover OSD policy secrets. Actually, hang on. Before I get to this part, because this is the big money. Let's chill out for just a minute. Let the ads run for 1 second. If someone wants to video chat me, it's either through Google or Discord or WhatsApp. I never liked WhatsApp. I always felt a little bit sketched out by it. And when I worked at a previous company, most of my team was over in India. Basically, I was overseeing a group of about 10 guys in India. They always wanted to use WhatsApp, and I absolutely refused. I was like, no, you can message me on Teams. I'd rather have Teams on my phone than WhatsApp. Got 5 seconds and the ads will be done. We'll hit this up again real quick. It's hilarious too, because I can watch the viewer count, and when the ads hit, it always drops. And then when the ads are over, it comes back. It's really weird. And it's like, I just wonder how many people are watching with ad blockers. All right, cool. Ads are done. Let's look at this. All right, proof of concept. So bundling all this together, we've got an attack path to coerce a remote site management point to the site database to recover the OSD policy secrets. So we set up NTLM Relay X, target the site database to establish a persistent SOC session in the context of the relayed account. So what he's doing here is he's setting the target to the MS SQL server, and by using the SOCs idea here, what happens is when the relay happens, NTLM Relay X goes through the regular man-in-the-middle process and then drops it for the victim side and then keeps it open for us. Then we now have a SOCs proxy that's presented by NTLM Relay X, and we can use that to basically let NTLM Relay X man-in-the-middle our authentication for us, and it just sends the stuff directly on for us. It's really, really cool. It's one of the best features of NTLM Relay X. Never let a shell go to waste. So next we curiosify an identified management point to the attacking system where NTLM Relay X is listening. In this example, we use the good old petit potem, my wee little potem. Let's see, successfully bound. Oh wait, this is the petit potem, never mind. I thought this was NTLM Relay X. Here we go. Authentication should be relayed to the target management point and a SOC session held open. Let me see if it shows it in here. Yeah, so what we'll see is he runs NTLM Relay X, and then from here, we see it connect. Once the connection comes into our system, they say, hey, we're going to start attacking MySQL. We authenticate against it, and then we add a SOCs connection to it right here. I believe it's over this, yeah, 1433 is the port here. So what we do now have, or what we have is we can take any other tools that are going to authenticate like over NTLM, and we can now man-in-the-middle those with NTLM Relay X and send it over this SOCs proxy port. Typically, you might do that with like proxy chains if your tool doesn't support native SOCs proxy. So you can send that over, bam, we're good. Usually, typically 9 times out of 10, you're using this with something like the Impact tool. But there are other ones that it will work with. Let's see. So from here, you're going to need that unknown machine GUID. You can either pull this from a previously discussed media endpoint or run a few select queries available on the management point. So to run the query, we process MS SQL client in the context of MP. Let's see. Quick note: this is not limited only to the only the OSD policies. If you know another client ID, you can use that instead to check for assigned policies. Well, yeah, because once you've got an authenticated session to that SQL client, you can check for a lot of different data. Let's see what he does here. So selects all from DBO unknown system disk. And then, oh wait, he had a typo in here. So he first had to tell it to use that table and then run the select query. Select query comes back, we get the GUID. Money. So next step, we run the get policy assignment stored procedure and recover the x64 client ID. This results in the query will be heavy, so I suggest keying these contents to a file. Hey Ian, thank you for coming online. Welcome in, and I hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. I'm sorry, a terrific Taco Tuesday. Got to get that alliteration in there. So we get a pretty chunky little blob here, and this is just a portion of it. He snipped off the rest. Each of these hex blobs will then need to be decoded from the results. We search for the NAA config, network authentication or authorization account. I forget what the exact term is, but they're network creds essentially. Let's see. So we search for that, the task sequences, collection of settings policies, and we can find we collect the policy ID and the policy version for each of these. Right here. Here, what is the screenshot, bro? What is this? A screenshot for Ents? So at this stage, rather than the get policy body after authentication procedure, we're just going to skip that because one of the parameters is the client ID for the certificate being used to authenticate the OSD client, which we don't have from this perspective. Instead, we've got another one, get policy body procedure, that only requires the policy ID and the version values, which we have from the list of policy assignments. Sweet. So I'd encourage team the results of this to a query file because the output's going to be massive and will flood your terminal. So we have another collection here. Decode the body in the hex blob and decrypt any secrets recovered from the policy. Nice. I do like some good stuff like this. All right. So finishing up the COM path. Admittedly, I did actually want to dig into how MP communicates with the database to run these procedures and complete the path from the initial HTTP request to the returned database result. The use of the SQL Profiler tool was convenient when, but but I still had to scratch that itch in my brain. Let's see. So the MP key information media function before the error message string, we can see how the COM proxy object is instantiated, and the and the memory reference to the CLS ID and the interface ID. All right, so we get those back. Searching for that CLS ID in only view search, it comes up with the MP is API proxy. Oh, okay. MPIS API proxy. That's what this is. And this is implemented in that same DLL. So if we start inspecting the type library for that DLL, it shows the interface and methods being used to execute the procedure. However, there's still no database connection. Right? So I threw the DLL into Gahydra, and then located the function where the method was referenced to find another COM proxy. It's just COM proxies all the way down. So finally, the CLS ID mercifully references the MPDB connection class implemented in MPDB DLL. Nice. It's so conveniently named, too. So inspecting the interface ID for the class yields all the methods used for the connecting to the database and executing the stored procedures. The itch has been scratched. He does some really fun stuff in there, man. By the way, if you ever want to go chat with these guys over in Spectre Ops, they do have the Bloodhound Gang Slack. And it's a fun place. It's not just for Bloodhound. They have a lot of other stuff up there. Lots of really smart folks. Oh, that's funny. Next time I talk to him, I'll have to ask him what was he smoking whenever he wrote this. All right, let's check here. What do we got for new tools and exploits? That was a fun one, though. I do like SCCM. It's a gold mine if you find it. Let's see. Stargate. Locate DLLs and function addresses without a peb walk or eat parsing. Neat. Let's see. MP Recon. A small script to collect information from a management point. Speaking of SCCM, here's about this. Let me look at this. Although I do have to say, if your username on GitHub is temp and a bunch of digits, that's going to be a little sus. Hold on. I gotta check something. It's interesting that he has 3 certs in here, or 3 repositories. This is, if I came across this and I was trying to find something and this is what came up, I'm just going to scrutinize the crap out of this code. Yeah, hella sus username. Kind of cool though. Easy way to list the management points. And it is referencing the domain. I wonder if it's actually doing... Is it doing it through LDAP? Let's see. Oh, it does register client. Let me look at this. MP Recon. Is he using LDAP in here? No? Okay. I was curious, since we just talked about ways in that article of getting this information without having to query LDAP, I thought that maybe this would work kind of the same way. Interesting. I like this idea. Source code review time. That's right. I mean, typically one of the things I'm going to look at whenever I come through here is I'm going to look for variables that seem out of place. And what do I mean by that? Stuff like this. Maybe this boundary right here. So in GitHub, it makes it real easy, right? You can take this boundary and then you can see everywhere else that it's referenced over here. You can look at it. And so I might go through and I would check each of these values right here and see where's this value being used. Because one thing you could in theory do is if you had a malicious payload you wanted to embed somewhere in here, is spread it across multiple variables, reconstruct it, and then slip the execution into a innocuous looking function. You know, if they're really bad at this, they would put something like a payload in one giant blob and it's just going to stand out like crazy, right? Let's see. Let's see what they're doing here. I mean, it helps that a lot of these are just like, look, he's just using Python requests, right? Because it's an HTTP. Everything is handled over HTTP. So you don't actually need a lot of in-depth stuff in there. Let's see. Anything sus in here? So far, nothing. I do find that the entire Fs for the SMB part kind of funny, but not suspicious. Let's see, anything funny here? Not really. But like I said, I always recommend you need to read through the tools. Like if you go find some tool that you've not used before and have trusted up on GitHub, you probably should be checking it out. Make sure that you read the code and check at it. Yeah, F's in chat for the code. But that's pretty cool. I like this. MP Recon. List of management points. Look up, what is SM? I'm trying to remember. Site Manager SID, I think. And you can do, oh, it looks like you can do this one by registering a fake device to it. Nice. Very cool. Very timely. What is this? Bloodfang C2. Modern PIC implant for Windows. Okay, since we were just talking about all the Pico stuff, just about this. Let's see. Modern implant with position-independent code compiles to 32 or 64-bit. Compiled implant shellcode is about 6K. And execution, its execution memory has very little footprint. Cool. Wish there was some more information about it. I'm not going to go dig through all the code just yet, but look this up real quick. Nothing special there. It looked cool. I'm not going to go dig through the code though right now. Oh, what is this? A Ludus redirector role. By the way, if you're not familiar with Ludus, it is basically think of it like a lab orchestrator. It's using the best parts of Ansible and putting it all together. I run a Ludus server here at my house. It's great for going through and making like reproducible, think of it as infrastructure as code style labs. I really like Ludus. You never noticed that the GitHub icon is like a cat? Oh, I always wondered why. I have no idea. Because cats run the internet, dude. That was, if you think about it, the internet really became a thing with people sharing cat gifs. That was the thing back in the day. Oh, this is cool. So this is an Ansible role for deploying an Apache-based redirector supporting custom rewrite rules. Roles designed for use in Ludus ranges that could be easily integrated into other roles or custom configurations. Okay, nice. Cool, because I hate setting up redirectors. Along that same vein, there's a Ludus sliver role for setting up a sliver server. Ooh, what is this? eByte Go Morpher. Go program that parses, analyzes, and rewrites Go source code to apply multiple layers of obfuscation. Operates directly on the Go abstract syntax tree. Generates both obfuscated source files and runtime decryption logic. Cool. Although the only downside to Go is, man, it makes chunky binaries. Chunky. Oh, actually, yes. I saw this one earlier today. Let's take a look at this. RAI trigger. I actually thought about mentioning it. I thought maybe you didn't want to deal with it too much. But this is another way for triggering relay opportunities inside of Windows. But we got Austin bringing facts for us. So GitHub's icon, the Octocat, is a hybrid creature with the head of a cat and the body of an octopus. It originated from a stock illustration purchased by GitHub's founders to serve as a fun error page on their site. The design was influenced by the octopus merge concept in GitHub, the version control software that GitHub relies on, where multiple branches of development are combined. Gotcha. That's funny. Although why that would be in a stock illustration, a mixture of a cat and an octopus, that's really weird. Some graphic designer was just like getting stoned one night. It's like, you know what we need? Octocat. Yeah, Octocat. Let's see here. How does this trigger work? RPC function from the app info DLL library allows system coercion. So this only works on domain joined systems. Turns out that the function can be called from any low priv user. Nice. Not to spawn a process, but to trigger a system authentication to an arbitrary location. This is because the create file W function basically is called as system to the first input parameter location. Nice. So as a low privilege user, as the low privilege user is still impersonated, this cannot be used as a potato trigger to elevate privileges from SC impersonate. But it can be used to request a computer account certificate against ADCS when web enrollment is enabled with incoming SMB authentication. Or it can be used as a local privilege escalation when relaying to LDAP. Nice. So essentially what you would do in this case here, you see, it's been a while since we talked about this, so let me diagram this up real quick. So let me find some blank space here. So when he's talking about doing like a local relay to LDAP, what you would do here is you would have your domain controller kind of over here. You'd have your victim computer where you're running your C2 agent here. And then what you would do is you would actually start up a listener on this computer somewhere. Typically, you might even need to set it up on 445. And there's tricks to be able to disable that or redirect it. There's different ways. But what he's saying is you would actually come hit this. What was the DLL called? Where is it? App info DLL. So let's say like you hit this function that's running from app info DLL in here, and then you give it the point of its own local loopback. So what happens here is this basically comes back around. You're listening. You've got this forwarding back over to you. You have it proxy back over to your attacker machine. So something like NTLM relay X. Relay X. And then from relay X, what you do is you actually proxy it back into this system. Actually, let me do this in a different color. So the return proxy will do in yellow. So it comes back up to this victim machine where it gets forwarded over to the domain controller. So what can you do with this? Well, now you can make LDAP queries and potentially set up something like shadow credentials on this. A lot of times, because this is coming as system, right? So it's coming as the computer account in the domain. And the computer accounts a lot of times tend to be their own owners, and that computer account can set up shadow credentials to itself. So good old shadow creds. I love that. Now, what can you do with that is then you can use those shadow creds to authenticate and then get an administrator session over here on this victim machine. So it's kind of like a local privilege escalation. It's like Apple. It's like Apple talking about what do we name Mac OS? Someone, why not a lake? Yeah. Just gonna pick something. What do I see outside the window? Another thing you could also do with this is since you can relay this, what he was talking about with ADCS is instead of relaying this over to domain controller, if you have an ADCS server, ADCS right here. If it's running web enrollment, and it also has to support SMB authentication or NTLM, what you can do is you can actually relay this down here. That was supposed to be yellow. You can relay this down here, and then you basically use that to get a certificate for this machine. It gives you kind of the same net effect, where you're going to have credentials that operate as this computer right here. So to me, it's like when pie filling, it's low and you need more pie filling, and the machine runs the automation. I'm so lost, Austin. I don't know what you meant for that one. Very cool. I'm always happy to get new relay tactics because, for example, a lot of the EDRs might be watching for stuff like Petit Patam or other ones, but maybe not this one, right? So they might have what we call a brittle detection, where they're looking for certain tactics to initiate coercion, but not all of them. So you find a new one, instantly that detection doesn't have full coverage. It's got a blind spot in it that you can abuse. Really? He hadn't seen Remote Curb Relay X? Or did they just release an update to this? Let me see what they did here. Old Frederick. I haven't used this in forever. This is, by the way, this is a Python tool for coercing Kerberos authentication over DCOM or RPC. Let's see. This tool is mostly connecting together Potato Pi and RPC Relay Pi together. It's nowhere near perfect in its current form. There are many combination options in the environment. I've only tested some, and only on Linux. Yeah. I'm trying to think of where I used this before. Oh yeah, so some of the examples, like if certified DCOM to escalation 8. So this attack path works against certificate authorities, ensures the template is one that the CA can enroll to. Basically looking at that. or the certified decom to SMB. That's a fun one. I haven't used this in forever. I haven't had a need for it. Maybe I should look at it again. Although I haven't been on an internal Windows AD assessment in like 4 months now. So it's been a minute. Granted 3 of those months though I was on leave from work, so. Another exploit proof of concept for Forescout secure connector. Let's see, what else we got here? Unicorn PE. Let's see. Unicorn-based instrumentation project designed to emulate code execution for Windows PEs. Hold on, what is this doing? Feature is you can dump the PE image from MU memory into a file, fix the import table, decrypt the VM, protect strings, decrypt the VM, protect imports. Feature x86, 0% priority. Or maybe this is his I don't know if this is progress or how likely he is to set up for x86. Very cool. Man, I wish I got to do more reverse engineering. Like, it's something that I'm not very strong at. I really like it, though. It's such a fun field. It's a field if you really like going down rabbit holes and like, basically unraveling balls of yarn. I highly recommend. Reverse engineering. It's very difficult. It's very time-consuming, but it's kind of like prospecting for gold. When you hit gold, right? Well, let's see. Loadergate. C# implementation for shellcode loaders that's capable to bypass Cortex, XDR, and Sophos. Ooh. Really? Oh, what is this? Evil Replay. Seamless remote browser session control. Had me at remote browser control. Oh, so it's like a machine like the pie filling one. If it's low or the dough, we can resize the dough amount. Yeah, kind of. I think I see where you're going with that. Let's see how he's doing this. Well, let's see. This tool is a weaponized adaptation of the Open Replay project, tailored for penetration testers and security professionals to demonstrate demonstrate and assess the impact of cross-site scripting vulnerabilities in restricted environments without the need for stealing cookies. Really? Hold on. What's he doing here? I can blow this up any. Can I make it bigger? No, where'd the video go? There it is. Let me see what he's doing here. Alright, so he's running DVWA. Goes over to the cross-site scripting stored procedure. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Hold on, let me pause this real quick. So what he's doing is this is the actual vulnerable web app, and he has, by signing the guest book, he put in a cross-site scripting, and then over here in his, like say this his control plane, he's actually able to interact directly with this browser. Oh, that's cool. Augusta. Heart. And the fact you can annotate on that is freaking hilarious. Now imagine if you're able to put that into, because there are some methods for installing extensions into Chrome. So imagine you install this as an extension into a system, and then you come in and basically just have it inject this JavaScript onto every page. That would be freaking hilarious. Hold on, let me zoom back out. That's too funny. So key features here: remote browser control, interact with the victim's browser in real time with an intuitive UI, automatic session recording. So all victim interactions are recorded, providing replayable sessions for easier analysis and reporting. Deep visibility. So you can obtain user inputs and detailed browser diagnostics, like their keyboard and mouse movements, console logs and JS errors, network request. Oh, This is pretty cool. Open replay can be downloaded anywhere. Follow my step-by-step guide for the major public clouds. Well, I gotta save this one. I'm going to star this under. Let's star this under the red team stuff right here. Because I think this would be a fun one. By the way, if you guys want to ever see like what lists those are starred, if you come over to the Blaise Bits GitHub, you can come over here and you can see them. Just go to stars, and then all those lists are right here. So I'm kind of making it a little bit like a lookup repository where you can find interesting repositories based on different topics in here. So that's where, if you ever want to access these, they're wide open to the world. You can come check them out. We make like 15,000 pies a year. Dang. Let's see. So let's say the bakery's open, 50 weeks a year, and open 6 days a week, right? So that's 300 days that the bakery's open. So that's 50 pies a day. Even that, I mean, that's a reasonable, understandable number, right? For a bakery to put out, like, especially if it's a very popular bakery. But still, 50 pies averaging a day. That's nuts. I hadn't thought about those kind of numbers. Let's see. Anything else in here? I think that was pretty much it for the news side of things. I think so. If anybody has any other interesting news stories you want to bring up, go ahead and drop them in there. We'll look at them real quick. I don't think I had anything else on that side. I mean, check something real fast. Check this out. Speaking of SharePoint exploits, why has Iran suddenly deployed so many SharePoint honeypots? That started in May of 2025. So looking for HTTP component, SharePoint, country, Iran. Look at this. There was about 400. There was a spike in 2023. Nothing. And then all of a sudden around May of 2025, well, that's really interesting. That's funny. I love it whenever they come up with stuff like, whenever you find interesting OSINT intelligence like that, it cracks me up. Let's see if I got any other interesting news stories that have come up for tonight. Shut up, baby. I know it. Let's see here. Try to see if there were any other ones. Oh, by the way, guys, if y'all did not hear, hold on, I'll wait till the ads are done to bring this one up. Oh, interesting. So there's a new module out for NetExec also. There we go. All right, cool. Ads are up. By the way, there was, if y'all did not see today, Ozzy Osbourne unfortunately passed away today. And that's wild because as many drugs as that man had done, I thought he was going to live to infinity. Yeah, I thought that was crazy. I didn't think that dude was ever going to die. I basically thought he was immortal at this point. All right, so check this out. From Alex Neff over on Twitter. Dumping the ntds.dit from disk with the new exec module from netexec. Oh, that's pretty awesome. I always do love a good... I'm really glad that netexec has been going on. Hey, Gumpy, thank you for the resub, man. Love you, boo. Don't worry, Keith Richards lives on. No one ever. Hey, Gumpy, what's up, man? Dude, I'm just trolling on Twitter right now for news stories. We finished up the news cycle a little bit early tonight. So one of those is, looks like there's now an ntds dump command over in netexec.
Hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Oh, Gumby, you're full of crap. Oh, here comes Hack Smarter. Wait. Oh, there it goes.
Caution.
It's like, where's the alert?
A virus has been detected.
Hack_smarter virus detected in the network.
There's a virus in the network. Gotta send cookie. Counterpoint, Tyler. Have you tried hacking smarter and harder? Actually, I know you have, because you're like totally putting everything on the line. Hey, Inebriated, what's up? Welcome in, Raiders. We're just covering the last little dregs of news for tonight. We were checking out, there's a fantastic blog, if you have not seen it. It's from the same guys that make Ludus, Bad Sector Labs, and they do a really great job of just curating news for the week. I love it. It's a great blog. And let's see, Begun Hunt, thank you for coming online. Zozo, thank you for coming online. And Wolfgang Puck, thank you for coming online. Welcome in, everybody. As if you couldn't tell, my name is Blaise. It's right there in the stream title. I'm a professional penetration tester and part-time streaming nerd. I just use AI to hack all the things that don't even work anymore. So what's funny, Tyler, about that is Shut up, baby. I know it. Not this past week, but like 2 weeks ago, I actually was doing a penetration test against a AI agent system. And we found some really cool stuff. My boss comes up and it's like, hey, would you mind presenting that in the internal knowledge share today? I was like, yeah, sure. So I scrambled and I put together a big slide deck of it. And they actually all loved it. And the reason is because I realized a lot of folks know kind of on the surface where the different moving parts are fitting together, but maybe not how it fits together coherently. So I made it kind of like a learning experience to explain the exploits we found. So we went through, it's like, hey, this is how the stack kind of builds up. And the TLDR at the end was, we're hacking like it's 1999. Because essentially all these chatbots, AI agents and whatnot, a lot of them are doing web apps. They're just web app front ends with some extra little sprinkling of AI magic fairy dust in the back end. We're gonna hack like it's 1999. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. My boss then came up with a really fun idea for something for me to work on. So typically on Saturdays and Sunday nights, recently we've been working on something called Hackbot. It's a basically like an automated CTF AI player, right? I'm actually not real big on CTFs. I think they're interesting, and I think they're kind of like Sudoku or crossword puzzles for hackers. That's how I view them. And they have their place. They're helpful for learning some things, but not helpful for learning other things. So I thought, how would I go play a CTF? Well, I've been trying to learn more about AI and programming development. I'm very good at hacking code and modifying it, not really good at writing it. So instead I said, well, let's go learn how to do this, learn how these AI agent systems work, and we'll make it go play the CTF. So that's what we've currently been working on. However, I'm currently stuck in tooling purgatory, doing a Sisyphean task of trying to get a browser that the AI agent can use. Because no matter how many times I tell it to exploit the website, because it's usually on CTFs, it's typically a vulnerable web app. I tell it to use curl, use Python requests, use whatever. It says, open your browser. Like it literally builds the task list and it's like, open a browser, click here, do that. I was like, fine, you obstinate piece of junk, I will get you a web browser. And that has been a 3-week project trying to find one that will work with the AI system. Tyler was roasting the OSCP. What's your take on that? Outdated? I don't know. So I will tell you this though. I took the OSCP when it was brand new in 2010. I didn't sit for the exam. I knew of the exam. I knew the structure of it. I went through all the material, learned it really well. Even went extra on the buffer overflow section. Like I went hard on that. I got all the way through doing, because originally in the old OSCP, they had you doing stack smashes and redirections with EIP, right? Well, I went even further than that and doing like secure exception handling overrides and stuff like that. Having a great time with it. I used that knowledge, but I never sat for the exam. This was 2010. Fast forward to 2018, I started my first penetration testing job, and I really wanted to finish it. So I go re-sign up for it, pay another $2,000 or whatever it was, and I realized not a lot had changed. It was very, very similar. Now, granted, this was in 2018, right? So I go through, I sit through it, I take it, and I got it knocked out. It wasn't that big a deal. I failed it the first time. I missed it by that much. And it was because I missed some screenshots. My reporting game wasn't as good then. And also, I was scanning entirely too much. So I will tell you this. I think whenever you're going through some of those exams, scan smaller, scan faster. Look for specific things. Don't look for everything, because then you're going to get analysis paralysis when you're looking at it. I do think that the OSCP is way overpriced. It is incredibly expensive. So, and the OSCP, despite what everybody says, is not sufficient to go get your first penetration testing job, nor is it required. I know people that are doing penetration testing now that do not have the OSCP, have never taken the OSCP, will never take the OSCP. So it has its place, it has its reputation and its knowledge. It's overpriced, and I don't know the current quality of it because I have not taken it since 2019. Oh, thanks, Austin. I appreciate it, man. I'm a junior security engineer. Should I take the OSWE? It depends on what you want to do. So the OSWE, let's go pull that up real quick. Make sure I'm remembering the correct one here. Yeah, the Web 300. If you're a security engineer and you like web stuff, I wouldn't start with the Web 300. I would go, because this is the web exploitation. Basically, this is the expert level, right? There are other ones that they've got below this. But honestly, man, go to Portswigger. Let's see. Go to the Portswigger Academy. The Portswigger Academy is free. You can use this. No, not this. Where is it? Let's see. Oh, Big Shot. Thank you for going online. Welcome in, man. Yeah, the OSCE is, yeah, like Tyler was saying, it's more focused on code review. So if you don't have a strong coding understanding, that could be a big pain point for it. But if you're trying to understand web topics better, I would say and you want to understand web security, I would start at least with the Portswigger Academy. It's free. It's going to teach you how to use Burp, which is the gold standard a lot of times. I know sometimes Tyler likes using Kaido. I wanted to like Kaido when it first came out, and then they switched kind of to the Postman format where it's kind of running in your system, but not really. I wasn't cool with that. So I'm sticking with Burp Suite for the foreseeable future. But this right here will actually teach you, like, hey, here's some of the attacks and how they function. OSWE, yeah, you're going to be looking at the code and breaking it down and dissecting it. And that's a great thing to learn too. But if you're looking at the code and breaking down and dissecting it, and you don't know what the attack paths are, that could be more difficult. So I would say if that's like a personal goal, something you want to strive to, go at it, man. Hit it, beat it like it owes you money, go to it. I would say start here first, though. You know, start boxing with gloves before you go bare knuckle. Oh, you just use Kaido on stream? I see how you are. Dude, I really wanted to like Kaido when it came out. Competition, I think, is a good thing. and I was looking forward to having something that was going to be competition with Burp Suite. As much as I like Burp Suite, I still want them to have competition too. Oh, I missed one. Lucinari, thank you for coming online. Welcome in. And W3TV, thank you for coming online. Checking the code is my daily life at work and use Burp for goodies. Gotcha. Yeah, so see, that's not what I would have expected, because you said you work as a security engineer. To me, that usually means you're working a little bit like on the blue side, maybe deploying security infrastructure, helping triage issues with the security infrastructure, things like that. Zap isn't bad, but it takes some getting used to if you're normally used to Burp. Maybe that's where my kind of, I don't really say I dislike Zap. I just never got the hang of it. Never really spent a lot of time with it, Ken. And maybe that's why, because I just kind of naturally drifted towards Burp Suite, and I've just been using it ever since. It's a tool I'm very familiar with. I can modify it and do what I need to do with it really easily. There's lots of cool switches and bells and whistles with it. Hey, Big Shot. I'm working through Portswigger right now. How well do you think it will prepare me for bug bounties? Probably not very well. And the only reason I say that is because bug bounties is a really broad area, and you're going to run across lots of different types of technologies. And usually the way I encourage people to approach bug bounties is we need to be really highly skilled or exceptionally talented to really make that anything where you're going to kind of earn reproducible income from it. So I would say look at bug bounties as they are side quests where you gain experience, and occasionally there's some gold at the end of the quest. That's the way I say look at those. And the good thing about them is you can get experience with different areas of technology stacks, different things. A lot of times you're going to run across web though. So at least in the web testing portion, that's going to help you with that. But there are other things that you find on bug bounties. It's just the vast majority of them tend to be some kind of web exploit. Sometimes I chain proxies with Burp, Zap, and Man in the Middle proxy. Oh, okay. Dude, I usually just do, I had to have a really compelling reason to move outside of Burp when I'm doing something. It pretty much handles everything I need it to do. You guys talk about the SharePoint mess? Yeah, actually, hang on a second. One sec. Let me find it. In case this is your jam. Hang on, this is way back earlier in the stream. Let me go find it real quick. Wait, hold on. I know where I've got it. Stand by. There we go. There you go. There was a captured attack from it. So if you feel like going through and digging into what the potential triggers are for it, have a blast. Knock yourself out. Hey, Grim, what's up, man? How do I get people to stop requesting access to my private HackerOne program that doesn't exist? What you do is you make one, and then you make the scope like a single IP, and it just has one web page on it that says, like, it's got a picture of Nelson from The Simpsons. It's just, ha ha. That's what you put up there. But yeah, that SharePoint one, pretty nasty. Actually, a really funny one that just came up. Let me see if I still have it up here. Here we go. So, Mr. Robot, Daniel Card, he posted this. All of a sudden, around May of 2025, Iran's number of systems running SharePoint went way up. It basically went from nothing to something around May of 2025. Interesting, Iran running a lot of SharePoint honeypots. Oh, what's funny is he even said, hey, these are definitely not just SharePoint servers. Look at this. So they're definitely running, they're not just all of a sudden embracing SharePoint. They're running honeypots in here. Yeah, thought that was pretty funny. It's kind of funny, like, whenever you see something like this, you're like, that's not a legit system. Oh, we did actually mention this too, by the way. NetExec had another update for dumping NTDS DIT. So if you're not familiar with this, this is basically the shared database that all domain controllers use to sync up password hashes for users. So if you can get a copy of the NTDS DIT and some registry files, you can crack it offline. But there's also ways to just dump it directly from the computer. I think they finally added this functionality over to NetExec. Bam. Hack the world. It's hack the planet, Noipi. Hack the planet. Man. I mean, yeah, you big troll. Let me see what else we got from Twatter's Land over here. There was another funny one. I cannot find it, but it was this guy was using some kind of vibe coding system, and even though they told this coding agent that they were in a code freeze and not to make any changes, apparently it not only deleted the production database, but then lied about it. Real hackers hack the universe. I do agree with that. You could potentially hack the multiverse. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, Hackerman. If you haven't seen this, it would be hacking time. Oh god, what was this movie? It was not Kung Fury. I forget what the name of it is. That was such a hilarious movie too. It was just way out there. Hold on. Hacking time meme movie. What was that movie called? No, not ammo. I clicked the wrong one. Although this is actually a good overview. Yes, it was Kung Fury. That's it. Dude, that came out 10 years ago? Doesn't feel like that long ago, man. It was such a good movie. Yeah. Yeah, usually I'm one of the few people that's streaming InfoSec stuff late at night, so Tyler and his crew come and raid in and start tearing up the place, acting all rambunctious. He gets them riled up. It's like an invading warband. Let's see if there's any other cool news we might be able to cover.
Bullshit, I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Oh, Zozo, you're gonna give me trust issues, man. Think of streaming from midnight to 3 a.m. I mean, I have a selfish reason for you to take that time slot, and that is that over on InfoSec streams, there's just not a lot of people on during this time period. Most of you'll start seeing folks like kind of earlier in the day and through the afternoon. Then there's a little bit of a lull in the like after 7 p.m. Central Time, and then usually this time of night, you'll see Tyler, Hack Smarter. You might see one other person and me. And I used to cover this time slot quite a bit because I used to be able to stream 6 days a week. I had a lot of life circumstances come up over the past year, and I'm not able to do that anymore. Kind of miss it too. Although there's some stuff I have to work on now because I switched jobs just about a year ago, getting close 10 months ago in September. And when that happened, there's things I have to work on now in the evenings that I can't stream, unfortunately. So it all kind of worked out. Yeah, Grim, I had to cut way back. Essentially starting in September, it was about a year ago. So for in the beginning there, I was streaming 6 days a week. I took Friday nights off to be able to go spend that with my wife. And a lot of stuff happened. And about now, essentially, I'm only streaming on Saturdays and Sundays. And then Tuesday nights, we do Hacker News. So we're doing fun projects on Saturdays and Sundays. Recently working on Hackbot to go play CTFs with an AI agent. And that's actually, I'm having a ton of fun with. Believe it or not, actually, there's a really cool tool here. Gray Hat Warfare.
Warfare. If I can spell warfare. This is a really neat tool here. And basically lets you search, open like S3 buckets and blob storage. So for example, let's just pick something here. We'll throw a keyword in here, Microsoft, right? And from here, we can find files on different systems that maybe reference Microsoft in some way. So I think you can, let me see if I can filter buckets. Yeah, you can see a few of them for free here. But I was working on, actually, I made a Grey Hat Warfare AI agent. It's very simple. It's really trash right now, but it does work. It works. But basically, I coded up the API and then a real quick LangGraph agent to go through and process it and look for stuff. It works like crap, but that's mostly on me because I coded the API very poorly. I didn't make it more or less AI friendly. So if I get that up and working pretty well, I'll throw it up on GitHub. I'll release it for everybody. But because sometimes you can find a lot of stuff for buckets in here. So for example, let's try SpaceX. I have a corporate account, but I can't use it over here. Search files then. Okay. SpaceX. Hey, Peaches. So, for example, in this case, as a free account, you can search for files referencing certain keywords. It'll show you like, hey, this is what's over in this bucket. Let me see if I can I click into the bucket? Oh, you can click into the bucket. You just can't search for the buckets. And so you can come through and you can find interesting stuff over in here. So since there's a lot of stuff that can come through here and interesting types of files I wanted to find, that's why I kind of made that little AI agent to do it. Wait, Discord didn't send out a notification? I thought it did. Hang on. Let me check real fast. Yeah, it's up there, Gumby. It's in the live streams notification channel. Make sure, like, because there's an option. I think you have to opt into it. I set it up that way whenever you sign into Discord, so you can have that option. And if you want to get the live stream notifications, you can. But I think it's off by default, so you might just have to do the onboarding and change your preferences for it. But I think you've been getting them, so that's kind of weird. Oh, sorry, I missed a message from Uppy here. So, Uppy said, my reason for that is my wife is a nurse and works from 10 to 10 p. Oh, so she works overnights. Nighttime's the best time to stream while she's at work. Gotcha. Yep. In my younger days, I did work the graveyard shift. Dude, I've noticed sometimes, like, if you go, I get notifications on my Discord, like the push notifications on my phone, they get crazy delayed. I don't know what it is. I've never been able to figure it out. Usually only DMs actually come through in a timely manner. Everything else, it's a crapshoot. Well, I take that back. All of Tyler's at everyone's, those come through immediately. I don't know why. Apparently Tyler's just hacks Discord and he's like put himself at the top of the priority queue. Unfortunately, guys, I think we're kind of out of time for tonight. I got to kind of wrap it up. If you have any raid suggestions, feel free to shout them out. Unfortunately, nobody's over on InfoSec streams, but I am going to drop y'all the link again to it because it's a great resource. If you start streaming, dude, go sign up for it because it's a very simple process. Come over here to GitHub, and what you do is you just submit a pull request. And if you, here's how you do this. So in here, there's streamers.csv. Come right here. What you'll do is hit this pencil. You'll fork the repository, and then you edit that file. You submit a pull request. It comes over like this. So here's a new person saying, "Hey, I would like to add myself to the CSV," and then boom, that's it. Real simple. If you have, I think it only monitors Twitch and YouTube, so you can put both of those on there if you're multi-streaming. But it's a great place. Yeah, it's run by one of my mods, actually, GoPro. So he's off vibe coding his stuff right now. So he doesn't drop into chat too much, but he's a really great guy. Super smart. He's actually, you'll see him streaming during the days. GoPro Slow Yo. Science is on. Maybe we'll go right over to them because they always are doing fun science stuff. Let's see. What's Braithwaite doing? He's doing PC matchmaking, which is always really fun. Texas Miller? Let me see. Playing Luto? What is Luto? I've never even seen this game. Psychological horror experience where you take on the role of someone unable to leave their home. Interesting. Does InfoSec streams apply only if your content's in English? I don't believe so. I think there are some folks in there that are like streaming in Spanish. I could be mistaken, but I don't think so. In that time slot, usually what you're going to get a lot of, Norby, is you're going to get a lot of folks from like the UK, France, Sweden, folks over in like the GMT -6 time zone, because it's going to be the beginning of their workday. When I stream real late at night, a lot of those folks come in, and it's really cool to see them whenever they do come in. This just came out. I don't usually go raid game streamers, but you know what? There's not really a whole lot else going on, so we'll go raid over to them. Have some fun with it. All right, guys. Unfortunately, that is where I've got to end it for tonight. I'm going to have to actually get some sleep. I've got to be a productive, responsible adult tomorrow. Thank you all for coming in. Everybody who came in on Tyler's raid, you guys are awesome. I appreciate it. Everybody who came in on Slyboar's raid, thank you. Y'all are awesome, and I appreciate it. We will... Entropic 07, sir. We will be hitting... we'll be working on something this Saturday. I don't know if we're going to work on Hackbot. I might have another project we're going to spin up and let Hackbot cool down for a minute until I get the browser issue sorted out. Because that browser is driving me freaking BANANAS bananas. And Parable Tech, thank you for coming online. Don't know what happened, but I fixed it. Nice.
Bullshit, I
Awesome.
can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair.
Gumby, you're so full of crap. I just want you to know that. You know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. Thank you guys for coming in. I will catch you all on Saturday. Same bat time, same bat channel. We'll have some good stuff. Remember, tomorrow is Wednesday. It is not the end of the week. Continue crushing it. Have a good hump day. And I want you all to remember one thing. Well, two things, really. One, you're awesome. Two, I love you. Peace. Oh, last thing. When you get to the raid, drop Hack the Planets in the chat.